Hi everyone, welcome to the April 2019 Patron AMA stream. Please read nothing into the fact that my face is veiled. I don't want you to attribute any significance to that whatsoever, except that it's a little asymmetrical and it's going to drive me crazy. Because I'm really, really neurotic about that kind of thing. Okay, let's dive into questions. This is ridiculous. Okay, let's see. Finding our questions. Published posts. How are you guys doing in the chat? Invite to submit questions. View. Can you guys hear me okay? The music's not too loud or anything? 111 questions. That's a lot of questions. It's also an interesting number. This is going to be a long stream. Music is very quiet. Well, that's fine. Oh my gosh, it's taking so long to load all the questions because there's so many. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think that's the beginning. Okay. Let's get started. Jane Hasbro asks, corn dog gif when? I assume by corn dog gif you mean the iconic Lindsay Ellis hot dog gif, except me instead of Lindsay Ellis and corn dogs instead of hot dogs. And if that's what you mean, then the answer is someday. Can I? I'm dipping my veil into my coffee. Hayden Azarius says, hi Contra, why are you so intellectually stimulating? Can I date you if I'm interesting? By the way, I love your content. Well, Hayden, let me make a quick phone call for you. Hi, Gwen. Does my contract say that I have to pretend to be romantically available to my fans? Oh, it does? Okay. Well, Hayden, since you find me so stimulating, you'll be glad to know that I'm wide open. Next! Aziz Chan says, a new fan here, love your videos. Not a question, just me saying hi. So hi! Love from the Middle East. Love back. Thanks. Oh my gosh, it's so asymmetrical. God damn it. Mr. Sheep says, what do you think about trans people in competitive sports? Personally, I'm suspicious of the claim that trans women are dominating cis women in competition once the international rules of hormone therapy for a year and maintaining testosterone below a particular threshold. However, I haven't had a deep dive into any actual data. Yes, Mr. Sheep, I have not had a deep dive into data either. And I don't usually like talking about this question because I don't know what I'm talking about, and I like to, have the right to remain silent when I'm not informed enough to say. But I have been thinking about this a lot the last few days because of the ruling about caster semenya and like, can a cis woman with high testosterone compete in women's sports? Well, apparently not. So before we even start talking about trans women, I think the caster semenya, not semenya. The semenya ruling is really fucked up. It seems really fucked up to me. As far as trans women competing, I think it's just an empirical question and a question about like what exactly it is we mean by fairness. I don't really know. I think that it probably depends on the sport, right? Like I think that there's probably sports where, anyone who's gone through a male puberty has an advantage, and probably sports where it doesn't. But I don't know anything about sports, so like abolish sports. Symmetry. Abolish sports. Tony Beamer says, what is your opinion on Slavoj Žižek? Did you see his debate with Lobster Daddy? Yeah, I skipped that. There was a time when I was like a young undergraduate philosophy major where I really liked Slavoj Žižek. Like I liked Pervert's Guide to Cinema and all that. But I don't know. I feel like lately the dude's just like Fox News with Hegel. Like, his opinions about trans people are garbage. Well, so what? Everyone's opinions about trans people are garbage. But he's also said a bunch of like racist stuff, and like, come on. Like, I don't know. This is not endearing to me. I'm not the Hegelian philosopher king act is not like endearing enough to me for it to be worth basically just having Fox News opinions. And so, and he goes on about like refugee, like rape cults or whatever. Fuck that. I'm over him. I'm over him. I guess I should watch that debate, huh? I still think he's an amusing commentator about movies, so it's too bad about the rest of it. Graham Colbine says, now that you've mastered the YouTube essay, are you interested in trying your hand at any other genres of filmmaking? Also, can I interview for my vlog when you're in LA for DragCon? Other genres of filmmaking, yeah, I think in some ways I would probably really like that. But this is kind of like where my career has put me, and so to shift to something else would be like a big change in direction, and I'm not sure I'm like quite ready for that yet. I think I want to keep doing YouTube for at least the foreseeable future. I still feel like I'm getting something out of it. I still feel like I'm contributing something. I still feel like, I mean, you guys are paying me, so that's another reason to stay here. I think that this is where I belong for now. Probably I will not have time for doing a vlog when I'm doing DragCon, Graham, but I will probably do a meet and greet if you want to come say hi. Queen Nadia says, hi Natalie, love the show. I was wondering if you could give me any thoughts on the pros and cons of either choosing to stay closeted to please financially supportive parents or come out and lose that support but gain visibility. Thanks. Well, Queen, it depends, I suppose, on a few things. One is, what are you coming out as? I would say that if you're talking about, you're gay and you're still in college or something, just don't tell your parents you're gay. Just keep the money coming in and let them find out eventually. If you're trans, that's a little bit more of a problem because it's hard to conceal being trans, and I understand that. If you're staying in the closet as a trans person, you might be talking about like delaying your transition, which can be I understand, a very difficult thing to do. I mean, you could always, of course, start the hormones and things and then part-time it, if you can stand to. Life is harder when you don't have financial support, so I understand the pull of that closet. I mean, that's my advice is just to make it as small a closet as you can and spend the rest of your life out of it. And if that analogy makes sense. Okay. Alicia Crawford says, over the years, what things have you delegated in your operation to other people versus what have you continued to do yourself? And how do you see this evolving in the future? Well, Alicia, I, for the longest time, basically did everything myself. I recently, as in like a month or two ago, finally hired a full-time assistant. So I have someone else now who's helping me with social media, helping me with answering emails, helping me schedule like appearances on podcasts and interviews and all that kind of stuff, and it's really making my life much more organized and much more focused, and it's really good. I have not yet ever hired anyone to do any editing for me, any filming for me. I'm like setting the camera up, I'm standing in front of it all by myself, I do all the editing myself. These are things I've considered getting someone else to do, but I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, because like to me it's sort of an artistic process, and I like having creative control. So it would just be a matter of sort of getting used to like letting someone else into that process and letting someone else have some creative input. It might be the smart thing to do eventually, especially since, like, as you notice, it takes me a long time to make a video on the present system, and it would be cool if I could get this down to like, oh, I don't know, like one video every 3 weeks or something, instead of one video every 4 or 5 weeks. So that's something I might be able to do by hiring an editor, but then I would lose that little creative control that I have in editing. So I don't know. It's something I'm sort of going back and forth about. Sonia Neuro Peridot. What a great name. I'm probably saying that wrong, but like so much assonance. I love a good bit of assonance. Question. In your last video, you refer to a philosopher named Visage de Poisson. Was that an obscure reference? If so, could we have more info on the dude? Or did you want to say fish face en French, which would be hilarious? Oui. Oui, mademoiselle Noro Peridot. I just wanted to say French nonsense. There's no such person as Jean-Jacques Visage de Poisson. I just thought it was funny. Okay. EWT396 says, I went out en femme for the first time to class last Friday. So much French. You guys are testing my French skills, which are non-existent. This last Friday. And it was amazing, and I wanted to share that. Well, congratulations. I don't know what to say. Would you do fan meetups in the Midwest? How are you doing? I should really like prepare a list of questions, you know. Well, I'm so happy for you going to class. Presenting the way you feel comfortable. I don't really do fan meetups anymore because basically, gosh, how do you complain about this and not seem like an arrogant asshole? I'm just too popular. Like, I would have to basically, like, to do a fan meetup in any kind of major city, I would need to book a venue and have like tickets and have security and stuff like that, because there's just too many people now. It's not like the old days when, you know, I could be like, hey, come to this bar, and like 10 people would show up. No, that's we're past that stage. We'll probably be back to that stage someday. The fame does not last very long, but at least this kind of fame. But for the time being, I'm LARPing as an actual famous person. So if you want to meet me, the best chance that you've got is DragCon this year. I still don't know exactly what my meet and greet schedule is going to be for DragCon, but DragCon LA, it's what, May 23rd, 24th, somewhere around there. I will be doing a kind of meet and greet then. So that's, you know, it's like a ticketed event. I assume there's some kind of security. So I will be doing a meet and greet then. Okay. Alejandro Herrera says, first up, hope your recovery is going well. Thanks. Second, do you think instead of referring to TERFs as TERFs, we should start referring to them as farts, feminist appropriating reactionary transphobia? Because there's nothing radical about transphobia. Also, I still think farts are funny, considering the statements Germaine Greer, Julie Bindel, and others have made about sexual assault survivors and other LGBTQ plus people. It's safe to say they're solidly reactionary. Plus, using TERF is often a good way to get the fart horde flooding your mentions and DMs with more abuse than they regularly dish out. Third, see you at DragCon. Let's make the Marks and Kropotkin fish and radicalize the drag fans. Let's make Marks and Kropotkin fish. I got it. Okay. I don't know. I never like really gravitated towards the fart acronym because it just seems too like not. I don't know why, but it seems too childish to me. As if like that's ever stopped me before. Uh, I don't know. I just it just doesn't appeal to me for some reason. It seems too easy. Uh, but I have no objection to it beyond that. Yeah, and can't wait to see you at DryCon. That sounds like a good time. Anne Boyle N says, a babe took a fucking sip. Oh my god, thanks. Here's a joke for your pleasure. A lot of the same men that refuse to use trans pronouns because chromosomes call their cars she and her, and sometimes have sexual relationships with them, unloading their Y chromosomes all over their car/girlfriends. Link to that video, Strange Addictions guy who loves his car. So first of all, Anne, congratulations on like probably being the first and possibly last time a patron has ever just straight up like told me to say something in a video, and then I actually said it like in a big way. So like that's kind of I hope that the patrons would like that, because and you used like 2 questions, like 2 months in a row you suggested that I say take a fucking sip, babes, and then it just came to me when I was writing that part of that video. I was like, oh, let's put that in there. So that was a very good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, Joshua Analyx says, please, like stroking this like a beard. I'm pondering these questions. Joshua Analyx says, please respond to this Bertrand Russell quote. Quote, it must be conceded that Nietzsche's prophecies as to the future have, so far, proved more nearly right than those of liberals or socialists. Well, I'm actually not sure exactly what prophecies is referring to. I guess I'm just gonna bullshit my way through this question. Well, there was an event called World War II, and something about that was not what the Enlightenment said would happen, and that's true. And Marx was wrong about there being a socialist utopia by now, so that's also correct. And power is still so yes, I agree with that. Guys, did I make it? Did I make it through? Did I do okay? What's my grade? You guys should be constantly grading me in the chat. Why is there not just a constant stream of grades for every question I answer? I want more coffee. Let me do one more question, then I get more coffee. Anna Marie says, I'm seeing the grades coming. Anna Marie says, hey Nat, just wanted to know how much more fun your last video was compared to the usual work. Not that your videos aren't typically hilarious. Was this intentional, a way of pushing through a difficult topic for you to discuss, or more to do with an improved state of mental health and or Theron's involvement in the production? Either way, keep it up. Joy is a good look on you. Aw, thanks, Anna. Well, honestly, I think the main thing was that Theron was there. Like, Theron just makes me laugh like no one else. And having her around while I was working on the video, I was just laughing a lot and smiling a lot. So I wish I could say that it was some new magic, but I think it was just Theron. Okay. Bambi Got a Gun says, I thought I was going to get more coffee. Okay, one more question, then I'll get coffee. Bambi Got a Gun says, this is an AMA, yet all I want to ask right now is what your favorite horror film is and why. Sorry, I wish I was better at this. Even more sorry if this has been asked before. No, that's a really good question. Oh, I have like a bunch of favorite horror films. It's hard to choose like one favorite horror film. I'll just choose like one that I've been liking lately. Okay, I think I'll say that my favorite is Perfect Blue. I know I've talked about this on streams before, but usually because people ask me about anime. But I was just thinking, I just rewatched Perfect Blue, and I was just thinking about like, why is it my favorite? It's my favorite because to me, it's a horror movie about what it's like to be a minor female celebrity on the internet and the horrors of that. And it's just like a documentary about my life, except exaggerated and made into horror. So I like it because it just cuts so deep. I'm gonna go get more coffee. Anybody else want another cup of coffee? I'm gonna get another cup of coffee. Oh my gosh, guys, do you want to know what extremely decadent thing I just did? I got my coffee and I put a giant scoop of Ben and Jerry's fish food in it. So there's like chocolate fish and like caramel and like marshmallows floating in here. Look at this. You guys are in your bread posting, I see. Where's this flyaway hair? Eh. Okay. Next question. Horror film. Vidi says, what I like most about your approach is that you take the right's ideas seriously and put in the intellectual work to explain why they're misguided. This information is very useful to those that were already opposed to an idea but didn't have the words to explain why. They'll be much better equipped to convince people that don't already share their perspective. Unfortunately, in my experience with leftist online discourse, a display of moral outrage or sarcastic mockery is often seen as a sufficient response to bad ideas, and anyone that doesn't already agree is written off as a lost cause. Any pushback on this behavior will usually get you labeled as an enlightened centrist, shitlib, rational skeptic, etc. As I find your approach much more conducive to changing minds, do you have any advice for how to incentivize people on the left to follow your lead? So what I think about this is that I think, what you're describing like as being like the typical left response, most of the time, like that's my response too, like on Twitter. Like I don't spend a lot of time generally like trying to like, go like do the deep empathetic dives and like a Twitter back and forth, right? Like usually it is more efficient use of my time to just make fun of someone, right? But you're right, that's not persuasive. And so I guess to me what I think is important to understand about my videos is like the context for them. Like my videos are basically texts. Like they're not really an actual conversation. They're texts that I produce like to be persuasive. So I spend a lot of time and effort, and it's a lot of emotional effort too on my part to like enter into the worldview that I'm arguing against and like imagine things from their perspective and do all this kind of work. It takes a lot of time to do this, right? And that's just for the sake of making a persuasive, piece of media. Now that's not necessarily, that's not what I'm gonna do if like someone just is like being a dingus to me on the street or on Twitter, right? So like I think that I agree with what you're saying when it comes to like, the most essential pieces of our discourse have to be, ones that are not just glib mockery, or, as you say, moral outrage. But although I think there is room for those things. Like in my videos, I'll be glib and mocking sometimes, but like you say, I do try to make a video that's gonna be like, there's gonna be something about the video, right, that like grabs people even if they don't agree with me. And that's just something I do as an artist and as a person who is interested in rhetoric. Like I want to do that, right? I want to be persuasive. How to persuade people on the left? Well, I think just showing them that it's worth occasionally taking some time, when you're in a good mood, when you have time to yourself to do the work that it takes to do this. Not everyone's going to want to do that, but I think some people should be doing it. Francesca says, "Hey Natalie, just a quick thank you for everything you've done and do. Since I'll have to downgrade my Patreon submission because I lost my job, I'll be okay. Oh no. You're awesome and an inspiration. Well wishes and good vibrations and whatever else there is. Till the next time." Oh, thank you, Francesco. Good luck finding a new job. Thank you for your past support. Well, and ongoing support, it sounds like. Rowan Rathdogger Manson da Almeida says, "Hi Natalie, philosophically, would a legal name change, say for a trans person, be considered more of a name correction than a name change?" Philosophically speaking, I guess you could think of it that way. I know, like some, a lot of trans people, I mean, it's pragmatic, like change your birth certificate and stuff too. So in a sense, that is like a correction rather than a change, right? Although I don't know, when women who change their names after getting married, when they do that, do they change their birth certificates too? I actually don't know. I guess to me, I think of it as a name change, but I'm like kind of unconventional, and that I think of myself as like having changed genders, so that's sort of unconventional. I don't know. My feeling is that it's a name change, but you should ask other trans people, because my opinions about this kind of thing are usually a little bit unorthodox. Thank you, Rowan. Emma Rangel says, "Hi Natalie, I'm 3 months into HRT and I'm afraid of the mouthfeel police. My roommate keeps telling me he will call them if I don't do my dishes. Is there any way to stop the mouthfeel police? I don't want them to take my mugshot of my feminine penis, thanks." I guess I would just say, just follow orders, get on the ground. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do about the mouthfeel police, or really any other kind of police. This is not my area of expertise. You want to talk to mouthfeel Antifa, I would think. Someone graded me a C+ for that response. Brooke Toller says, "Natalie, did you have to do any self-care after reading all the turfy bullshit during your research for the gender critical episode? If so, would you be willing to share what you did with the rest of us? Sometimes it can be hard not to let the turfy shit get to your head." Oh yeah, it definitely gets to my head. Self-care, well, the self-care I did was surgery and then a week of oxycodone. So that's probably not for everyone, not for all circumstances, but that's what I did. So that's not helpful, is it? Yeah, I would say, find trans people you like and spend time around them, and then the turf stuff will not bother you so much. That's what I find. That's the best self-care there is for that situation. James Coates says, "Hi Nat, hope you're well. Your videos mean a lot to me. Thanks for bringing some joy to my life." You're welcome, James. Are you a fan of Andrei Tarkovsky? If so, what are your favorite films from him and why? Also, I'm curious as to whether you've seen Only God Forgives from Refn, as it shares a very similar visual style to some of your vids. Bonus points because it stars an angsty incelled Ryan Gosling and surreal dream scenes. You know, I know I'm supposed to have seen Tarkovsky because it's like one of those like smart people things that all smart people have done, but I don't think I've seen any Tarkovsky movies. It's on the list. It's on the list. I haven't seen Only God Forgives either, but I have seen Neon Demon, and I think that definitely had an influence on me at a certain stage of video making 2 years ago, so that's probably the source of the influence that you're detecting. I should see Only God Forgives though, that sounds good. So thanks for the recommendation. Alright, we're gonna try this coffee through the veil feat. It's also hot now. Oh, it's so chocolatey and good. Oh yes. Okay. Jeffrey Skarsky says, do you have any ideas for aspiring video makers who want good sound quality but don't have a lot of money to spend on high-end microphones? Get a medium-priced lav mic. I would think that's pretty standard advice. Like, basically what you want is a decent mic as close to your mouth as you can get it. So I think a lav mic is a good way to go if you're not concerned about like having a little mic pinned on your body somewhere. In other words, if you're not like filming in the nude or anything like that. Otherwise, I don't know. I used to use a Blue Yeti. I don't think I would suggest that, honestly, unless you're able to put a, you know, something like this, a pop card in front of it and speak really close to it, because if it's not like right in front of your mouth, it's not that you want a shotgun mic if you have something further away from you. So probably you either, you know, if you can't afford a shotgun mic, I would go with a lav mic, those little mics that you just pin onto your clothes. Jessica B says, hey Natalie, just wanted to say you are fantastic and you are goals. Oh, thanks Jessica. Keep killing it, and I hope to look as good as you do one day. Well, get yourself a nice little veil moment. My question is, if we can get a Get Ready With Me video with Tabby casually discussing dismantling the patriarchy while telling us our opinions on the newest Urban Decay eyeshadow palette? If not, can we get a full rundown on your makeup look for the last video? You looked stunning. Thanks and keep killing it. Get Ready With Tabby. That's not only that's probably never gonna happen. I don't think Tabby is that kind of YouTuber. I don't think she would do a Get Ready With Me. The last makeup look though, Urban Decay, that is what she would wear though. What was I wearing in that last video? It was the same eyeshadow palette I'm wearing now, which is an extremely expensive palette, which is Natasha Denona's gold palette that I got because I saw it on Instagram. It's like $100 something. It's ridiculous, but you know, business expense, so we splurged. It's, yeah, got a lot of golds in it, so that's I like kind of golds on an eyeshadow. For my eyeshadow colors, I generally like warmer colors in general, although this palette also has this green on it, which I think this kind of like teal looks good on me. I actually thought of doing my eyeshadow like this because there's so much teal in the frame in that last video, but I ultimately decided it was like a little cheesy to be like matching my eyeshadow to the wallpaper. So I just went with a more like gold, like basic, like smoked out eyeshadow look. And then the lips, actually, I had just like kind of like the like darker nude color lip. And then it was actually Theron's idea to put gold eyeshadow on top of the lip gloss. So that's, my lips are kind of gold in that video, which kind of matches or reflects some of like the like little gold items around the set. So that was kind of a little genius little idea on Theron's part that I cannot take credit for because it was her idea. Thanks, Jessica. Jake says, hi Natalie. First off, best wishes for the recovery. Thank you. Question. When I was an undergrad, I took a research methods course with all the other young aspiring scientists. I had an awesome professor who stressed one point with us again and again. Scientists do not discover facts. His point was that a scientist's job are to create tools, to collect data, and to analyze those data for precision. It is not a scientist's place to transmute data into facts. That work needs to be done by philosophers. Does that ring true to you? I feel like it's a nuance that gets overlooked in the your gender is X because chromosomes because science argument. So I think that there's something to what your professor is saying. I don't think it like literally has to be done by philosophers, but I do think that a lot of scientists basically do some like philosophy, and that's what happens in the like conclusions section of a science paper, right? Because they present their data, they present their like methods, right? They present their results, that's all the data, and then there's a section on conclusions, which is like, what ideas do we draw out of this data? In other words, like how do we understand this data? And that I think inevitably involves going beyond merely statements about like statistical facts, right? It involves interpretations, and sometimes in some cases, a philosopher might be a better person to be doing that than a scientist, but it sort of depends on, in some cases probably not, it depends on what the type of science we're talking about, what type of study. But yeah, I think that your gender is X because chromosomes because science, that's definitely a good example where like, scientists can discover things like geneticists, right? Can discover things about chromosomes. What this has to do with gender, what it has to do with society, what it has to do with human beings and souls and like minds. This is not the kind of territory of genetics. So I think that, yeah, people, draw very elaborate philosophical conclusions from very simple scientific data. And that's, I think, usually pretty unjustified. Maya Jones says, "You are awesome." Thanks, Maya. You don't have to answer this as it is a touchy subject, but I would love an objective, well-formed opinion on this so I can understand my feelings and others better. What is your opinion on drag queens? I stan? I don't know. I like drag as an art form. I kind of like the whole attitude of drag, the ironic attitude towards gender and camp. I love, lip syncing. That's a good thing for me because it's a great way for people who have no talent to express themselves. And like the makeup obviously is something that it requires incredible talent. So does good lip syncing, to be honest. But like, I think that yeah, I know a lot of trans people are down on drag because sometimes queens will say shit things about trans people, and there's a lot of like cis nonsense that goes on in the drag world. But there's a lot of cis nonsense that goes on in every world, and in my experience, like the drag community is much more supportive of trans people than like most of the rest of the world. So to me, it's like, I don't know, it's not a worse than average community by any means. It's better than average. Like, I have not seen like when the like trans military ban goes down or something like that, like there's no section of my Instagram, people I follow on Instagram, like none of them are more there for it, speaking against it, than drag queens. So this idea that like drag is horribly transphobic, I don't know. I think it's a little overstated. Does RuPaul? I mean, how much of this is just RuPaul? How much of this are we just talking about RuPaul? Like, yeah, RuPaul says transphobic things, but he's like an old queen from like a generation past, and like, what cis queer person over age? What cis queer person of any age doesn't have some like ridiculous ideas about trans people? Okay. Dang says, Hi. So something I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, is that you're decently well liked amongst academics, even though you have a public disdain for academia. Why do you think that this is the case? How often do you still talk with people in academia, and do you ever consult with them for your videos? Um, get your grades ready, people. I guess I think that academics like me because they see themselves in me, because once you've been in academia, you're never fully out. Like, it's left its mark on you. It's there forever. So I think that, you know, grad students and professors will kind of identify with me because on some level I'm talking their talk, right? And they can recognize that. And I think that, you know, my disdain for academia is like, it's not like an outsider's disdain, it's like an insider's disdain. And a lot of people in academia hate academia. So there's really no source of conflict there. Do I consult people in academia? Yeah, sometimes. I still have a lot of friends who are in academia, so it's not like I'm completely outside that world. Like, I'm still in touch with it on some level. Do I consult with them for my videos? Yeah, sometimes. This coffee drinking through the veil is so silly. Ah! Jennifer Palmer says, do you have a favorite background or set from one of your videos? I love the wallpaper and decor in your last one. Gorgeous. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I think that's probably up there for me, was the wallpaper. I had a lot of fun with that. Oh, do I have anything I like more than that? I had so much fun. I keep thinking about the West, like that fairy forest that I made. Like, I'm gonna make another video that's set in some kind of fairy tale forest, I swear to God, because it's just like, I can just feel it calling me. I just want to be back there. Sarah Z says, hey Nat, have you ever played D&D or any other tabletop RPG? If so, what's your favorite class to play? If not, I hope you're having a nice day and surgery recovery is going well. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I've played D&D like twice, and to be honest, I have trouble getting into it. I think because I'm like a fairly lazy person in some ways. In some ways not. I'll like work 16 hours a day on a project, but like in some ways, like when I relax, I just want to relax, you know? And D&D is very like, it's a lot of thinking and a lot of like, it's a lot of math. I don't know. It's like, it's what, I guess I haven't really played enough to have a favorite class. So I don't know. What class do you guys think I should be? Leave a comment in the comments below. Cole Rainey says, what perfect timing. I'll be about an hour into a 4.5 hour train ride when the stream starts. Well, Cole, I hope your train ride's going well. Have you heard about Gaysper? I guess a far-right party in Spain tried to use a rainbow-colored ghost as a way to paint the LGBT community as an enemy, but it backfired spectacularly. The LGBT community in Spain are now in love with and trying to appropriate it from the far right. I, for one, find it too cute to be used for hate. Yeah, I'm sorry, but a rainbow ghost is very easy to reappropriate, and they fucked up. I have not heard about Gaysper, but I love him. I love her. I want to protect her. If I may summarize my feelings on the subject, we stan. Avi Finkel says, do you speak French? No. No. Yeah, I don't speak French. I wish I did, obviously. I'm always trying. But no, I speak no French. You guys are being so harsh with your grades. B-? I thought that was pretty good. This was a bad decision because it's just way too much distraction for me. Laura Brady says, "Hail, Dark Mother. I hope your recovery is going well." Thanks, Laura. Do you speak any languages other than English? What languages do you wish you could speak? Yeah, I pretend to speak German and French, but I don't actually speak either of them. I really can only... I also can, like... I took Spanish for, like, 5 years, and I still can't actually speak it. I really can only speak English, so... Just that! Great! Like most white Americans, basically useless. Despite all the years in school learning Spanish and German, I can like read Spanish and German pretty well. Can't actually be conversant in them though. Can barely be conversant in English if you listen to the way I talk on when I don't have a script. Okay, let's see. I wish I could speak. Yeah, I wish I could speak Spanish. I wish I could speak German. I wish I could speak French. I wish I could speak every language, honestly. Like, what language would I not want to be able to speak? None. Christina L says, toilet paper over or under? Over. I can't explain it. I can't justify it. It's just what I do. Hope you're recovering well and in tip-top shape soon. Much love. Thanks, Christina. Greta Corvitz says, Bambi's mom, King Mufasa, or any other childhood-ruining death or beloved character, which frightened/scarred you the most as a kid? I would say I was the most scarred by Littlefoot's mom dying in The Land Before Time. That shit is just devastating. Why do people do this in kids' movies? Just like kill off the protagonist's parents. Like, is there anything more traumatic to a child than imagining their parents dying? Land Before Time spoilers. Sorry. Okay, what are we doing here? Emily M says, giving everyone the same ability to defend themselves regardless of physical stature or social situation seems like an idea that ought to be popular with lefties. Why do you believe conservative people are more likely to support gun rights than lefties? There's definitely people on the far left who are like big into gun rights. I feel like being in favor of like civilian gun ownership is just like a far one wing or another position. But I will say that you're obviously right that like it's much more of a thing with far right people in this country. I think it's just because there's like a gun culture, right? Like there's a kind of like association with guns and like masculinity and like these like protectionist, paranoid impulses that conservatives have, right? Like this fear of boundaries being crossed, like, oh, keeping invaders out of your country, keeping invaders out of your home. It's all the same kind of feeling. And it's that really powerful narrative that I think leads to a lot of like conservative gun culture and gun ownership. Whereas there's like on the left, like, you know what I mean? What would the leftist equivalent be? Like revolution, we need guns to overthrow the bourgeoisie. There's not a strong culture of that in this country. I'm sorry, people, but there just isn't. That's my take on it anyway. I just got prescribed Spyro last week. Yay. PS get better soon. Thanks, Emily, and congrats. Welcome to the ranks of trans Emilys. Maybe not welcome. Maybe you've been living as a woman for years. Just now starting Spyro. Okay. Tamala Peranovic says, what are 3 words that describe how you think others view you? Others in real life or others online? Others in real life, how do they view me? Shy. Late. Um, tall. Just that always late person who shows up to be really tall and not say anything. Christopher Fox says, "Hi Natalie, now that other YouTubers have ventured personally into politics, Sargon for UKIP, would you consider a run for public office? Wishing you all the best for the recovery." Thanks, Christopher. God, no. People keep suggesting to me that I run for office, but like, I cannot handle the level of scrutiny and the type of scrutiny that would bring on me. I just do not want that. So I have no intention to run for office. That's just not what I want out of life either. I never wanted to be a politician, and I still don't. I wanted to be an artist. I still want to be an artist. That's what I want. I don't want to be a politician. I don't have that urge inside of me, you know? Annapurna Vadaparty says, "Does your family watch your videos? What do they think of them? And what you do?" Sorry for reposting from the other post since that was the wrong one. Oh, okay. Okay, and what do you? Okay. What does my family think about my videos? I know my immediate family watches at least some of them. I know my mom is a stan, and I love that. I love her. My dad watches them too, and he's been catching up on them lately, and he likes them too, and I love him too. What do I think about the fact that what do they think about it? They basically stan. At this point, like, I think at first they were kind of like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this cross-dressing insanity?" But I think they understand my vision at this point, and like we'll have like little conversations about my videos. So I basically I feel good. I'm happy that they watch them. You know, there's a point like where like when you're in the New Yorker, like your parents are gonna be like, "All right, well, I like they're gonna be proud of you, even if what you're doing seems like not what, you know, conventional wisdom says that your child should be doing. Like, if it works, it works." Brian Igrea says, "Are triangles gay?" I say, on balance, they're one of the gayer shapes. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. Emma says, "I stan your parents." I stan them too. I stan. Oh, I stan. Maybe I should do a stream with with one of my parents. They would both be interesting. They're both very interesting people. My dad's a professor. You could ask his opinion about Jordan Peterson. And my mom's a doctor, and she has a lot of interesting life experience. Doctors see a lot of crazy shit. This is like the most I've ever talked about my family online. I'm usually very like coy about it because I try to keep my family like out of this, you know. But they're here, and I love them. Alice says, "Hi Natalie, how do you feel about being a white person? Specifically, how do you feel about having white skin as the weather finally gets nice? Have you ever been to a tanning salon, used a spray or bronzer, or just tried it the old-fashioned way? What are your plans for this summer? I'd love to hear any fun stories, or if you're feeling more serious, an intersectional analysis of the racial, socioeconomic, and gendered implications of tanning." Okay, so my analysis is that white people have no culture. Tanning is a terrible, terrible idea. I'm like completely sunphobic. Like, I used to tan when I was a teenager because I was fucking stupid. I used to just lie out in the sun and roast. Look at my skin though. Like, I'm like a, you know. So I'm like sunphobic. I'm so sunphobic now. Like, I just put on sunscreen every day. I think I'm gonna get a. I've been. Excuse me. I've been using like. This is like socially inappropriate. So I, didn't do it in the past, but lately I just don't give a fuck what's socially inappropriate. So I've been walking outside lately with a parasol, like a fucking old Japanese tourist lady. and I don't care because it keeps the sun off me, and that means I don't get cancer. It means my skin stays better. So I'm really like a skincare obsessed, like a sun phobe. And do I look like a vampire? Yes. But that's better than premature aging, is my line of thinking about this. So yeah, I don't use any like tanning or stuff or bronzer. I'm just actually just pale as the moon. My summer plans, I will be in LA twice, once for DragCon, once for VidCon. So that's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of sunscreen. I'll probably bring my parasol to to LA. You don't see a lot of parasols in LA, I must say, but I'm gonna be that weirdo. Argue says, "Since we are both failed philosophers, what is your take on knowledge theory?" I don't remember what knowledge theory is. I'm clearly more of a failed philosopher than you. I'm sure if you described it to me, my memory would be jogged. But you have more questions, so I'm going to move on to those. Whose epistemological work do you find most interesting? You don't have to go into crazy detail. Richard Rorty. Wow, I remembered a philosopher. Guys, this stuff is really fading from my mind, but I've got a few little bits in there. Yeah, Richard Rorty. Coherentism. That's what it's called. I used to stand coherentists. I guess that. If epistemology wasn't your thing, then what about ethical frameworks? I don't know. I feel like I know there's a fancy word for this, which means like ethical pluralism or something. Like there's no one correct theory, that different theories are true, and I don't know. This is about as much philosophy as I'm capable of producing, argue, these days. A lot of it has slipped my mind. My mind has been filled with Jordan Peterson and other nonsense. Real philosophy has slipped my memory. I love the way this feels. I love just touching it. Like, oh god. And my hair, my veil. I just want to like. Oh gosh, I need to be stopped. Michaela Malvazio says, "As a trans woman, I'm starting to resemble my mother in some ways. Yes, that's good. It is aligned with my gender identity and expression, but that was a sinister but watch out for that. It's kind of freaking me out. Have you experienced this?" Yes, I have, Michaela, and it's really fucking weird. Like, because I have like looked in the mirror, and from some angles or at some moments I'm like, whoa, I look like my mom. And I mean, it's basically good, right? Because it's like, that's what I should look like, right? But it is like, after sort of not really seeing that for most of my life, like just to suddenly see that there. Well, especially because my mom went through a stage of like dyeing her hair blonde like this. My mom is darker skin and complexion than me a little bit, but yeah, I definitely have had that experience. It's interesting. Um, Interesting second puberty experiences. Alan Gonzalez says, I'm gonna be at DragCon because you having a booth was my tipping point. What's your preferred greeting? Handshake, fist bump, curt nod, or Christian side hug? I would say handshake or Christian side hug. Maybe, I think Christian side hug is actually my favorite. I know that sounds like a little more up close and personal, but like, I don't know, handshakes are kind of weird. I like side hugs. It's very like, because it's like contact, but very like it's very like not intimate contact in a way. You know what I mean? It's like affectionate without having to like get too up in someone's shit. You know? I mean, all of these are fine, of course. Aiden Sargent says, Yo, Nat, I have a challenge for you. Can you please say happy birthday to your fan Gabe Nugent? If possible, please say happy birthday, Gabe, while hysterically clapping, accelerating speed, and rising in intensity. Thanks, and Merry Christmas. I'm not sure what you mean, like, happy birthday, Gabe, like the way I say it, like my social justice, like, clap tweet. Happy birthday, Gabe. Happy birthday, Gabe. Happy birthday, Gabe. Happy birthday, Gabe. Alright. Thank you for your question. I will take your $15. Okay. What's my grade? Grade me. Merry Christmas, Aiden. Matthew Chapin says she is risen. I always ask these big thorny buzzkill questions, and I should give you a break while you're on the mend. So no question, just welcome back. I hope your ether dreams were as inspiring and gorgeous as the visions you bestow upon us. Be well, flowers. Thanks, Matthew. I am feeling much better. But you know, I'm like I'm struggling with this stream because no alcohol. Like I'm totally off alcohol. So I'm having to get through this on just coffee. Why do I need drugs just to do basic human tasks? It's because I'm an introvert. These streams are actually hard for me because I have to like do a lot of talking, and usually I rely on alcohol, but I can't drink because I'm recovering. So just eating a bunch of coffee and ice cream, that's gonna have to do it. I'm sure you can all relate to my introvert struggles since like I guarantee you like 99% of people watching any given live stream are introverts. I'm Wednesday LaRocha. I'm wearing a robe. I'm only wearing a robe. Great name. Says, hey Nat, so I'm told the left can't meme. I kinda agree honestly, but you know what the right can't do? Art. All their movies are shit like Hillary's America. All their books are schlock like True Allegiance. All their music is trash like We Love Our Cops. Mallard Fillmore comics, John McNaughton paintings, Article 15 clothing, all garbo sus. Is there any work that tacks explicitly and exclusively to the right that can be enjoyed unironically? Okay, after thinking about it for a sec, I remembered Christopher Nolan's films are pretty conservative. That's one, I guess. Yeah, you're right, Wednesday. Like, I mean, just look at like the fan art that gets made for leftist YouTubers versus that gets made for right-wing YouTubers. Like, it is a world of difference. And I think that one thing that's kind of nice about being on the left is you have access to all this like artistic talent that's right there. Because artists tend to be left-leaning. Are there good works of art that are right-wing? Some of Wagner's music is fine. um, I don't know, what else? It's not a long list. It's not. There's a lot of great centrist art, of course. That hardly needs mentioning, though. Kit Thornton says, "What's your favorite poem? And would you please favor us with a few lines from it?" Jesus. Do I have a favorite poem? Let's just say Paradise Lost. Let's find some Paradise Lost lines. I'm looking for a good passage. Okay, how about this? This is Satan speaking. God, it's hard to start with this poem. It's so dense. Okay, this is Satan talking about finding himself awake in hell. This is near the beginning. "Is this the region, this the soil, the clime?" said then the lost archangel. "This the seat that we must change for heaven, this mournful gloom for that celestial light? Be it so, since he who now is sovereign can depose and bid what shall be right. Farthest from him is best, whom reason hath equalled, force hath made supreme above his equals. Farewell, happy fields, where joy forever dwells. Hail horrors, hail infernal world, and thou, profoundest hell, receive thy new possessor, one who brings a mind not to be changed by place or time. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven." I think about that sometimes. Okay. Grade me, people, grade me. Kit Thornton says, "If that doesn't appeal, if you could have dinner with any two fictional characters from literature, who would they be? And what wine would you serve?" Dinner with fictional characters. Oh god, I don't know. Do I like any fictional characters? I'd have dinner with Socrates and Satan, and I would poison the wine. Okay. Oh, and I misread your post and tried for quite some time to figure out how to avoid asking a sugary question. Too saccharine, too mawkishly sentimental. No, Kit, you're good. Josh Height says, "You called Zizek Zarathustra, and like he is a gay scientist in whom I can submerge my contempt. But as only an amateur chess player, I feel like I should ask if there's any deep similarity I'm missing." Really the only similarity is that they both have names that start with Z, and also that I can like somehow imagining Zizek like wandering down from like 40 nights in the mountains. Okay, Eli Yerman, or Ali Yerman, I'm not sure which, sorry, says, "I hope you're feeling well. We missed you. Here's my question. About a month ago, Sargon made a very short video in response to H-Bomb's Bill Nye vid from a yearish ago, with a thesis statement that gender equals fashion because it's just a social construct. My gut instinct is to disagree with him, but I've been struggling to articulate why. Thoughts?" I haven't seen the video you're talking about, but I think fashion is a component of gender expression, but it's not the whole of gender by any means, right? There's a lot more there. There's like the whole like system of like interpersonal dynamic. That's what, to me, gender like primarily is understood as like a social system, right? It's like a way it's a way that people are organized. It's a way that social interactions between people are organized. It's like a sort of system that like mediates the perception that's of other people that we have and the way that we treat each other. Fashion certainly is part of that, but it's only part. It's not the whole thing. That's my off the top of the head response to that. Previous Mammoth says, "Hey Natalie, love your videos and hope you're doing well." Thanks, Mammoth. What I'd like to ask is, how do you deal with homophobic, transphobic family members? I'm a confused bi boy who may not actually be a boy, and I don't know what to do. Any advice would be massively appreciated. Well, as we discussed earlier in this stream, I am very blessed to be accepted by my immediate family. But of course, there's always people in your life who won't accept you, and I'm no exception to that. It sort of depends on like what level of homophobia or transphobia we're talking about. If we're talking about just sort of like ignorance, that's not like, you know, get out demon spawn. Ignorance is something that you can kind of slowly work on over time in a lot of cases. If it's to the point of get out, you're no son of mine, demon spawn, well, that's hopeless. Just cut that shit out of your life as fast as possible. But if it's like the more like softer ignorance, like obviously that hurts too, but you know, make sure you make space away from it for yourself. And you know, when you have the patience, you can try to educate people and try to, you know, rebuild these relationships based on a new kind of understanding. But it's hard. It takes time. I mean, even the most accepting family, like, especially if you come out as trans, like, it's gonna take a while for them to get it. It just is. You know, even if your parents are incredibly tolerant and open-minded, like, you have been their child as one gender for probably decades, and it's gonna take a while to adjust. At some level, you know, your parents may never fully adjust to the fact of, like, for example, you know, because it's such like a fundamental part of their self-understanding too. Like, I am the mother of a son, right? Like, that's something that has been like with my mom's life, like for, you know, almost 3 decades. And, you know, when I came out, and so that's not something that's going to go away overnight. You know, even though, you know, my parents are very accepting, like, you know, misgendering happens because, you know, you're not going to overwrite decades in 2 years, especially with something as fundamental as that. So there's kind of a give and take. You know, there's the frustrations and the, you know, there's the ignorance maybe on your family's part, but there's certain things that you have to be patient about, and there's certain things that you really shouldn't have to put up with. So it's a matter of deciding where your boundaries are, and then deciding what to do from there. Okay. Dimphnomaniac says, "Will you and Ollie ever fulfill your fans' fantasies by posting a video of you two singing the Philosopher's Song from Monty Python? Also, please take care of yourself. As much as I want to see new videos, I'd hate to see you miserable from overwork." Maybe Ollie will do that. I feel like Americans doing Monty Python bits, I feel like it's a cringe when we do it. English people can get away with it. I don't think I could pull it off. Joshua Basler says, or Basler. Sorry for the dead naming already. I'm a 31-year-old transitioning trans woman ex-4chaner, and I still don't quite believe that an eloquent, funny, insightful YouTuber in my exact demographic actually exists. Do you ever find unwanted or distressing channer jargon and thinking leaking into your thoughts, or needing to be filtered out or translated before you say a sentence out loud? This question compressed by 40% to 2 sentences by WinRAR dynamic compression technology. I would say I was never exactly a channer. I've never really been at home on 4chan, nor have I been a habitual user. But I will say that I've spent a ton of time in spaces like that, on incel forums, on turf Reddit, on 4chan, for doing stuff on these videos, and absolutely, I find these words, this jargon, this nasty vocabulary entering my head. I talked about that like in my incels video, and yeah, it sucks. It's something that I have to take care to work on, especially when I'm working on videos. The video I'm working on now, I'm like, I've reopened the incel. What do you even call it? Viper nest, and it's so I have this nastiness back in my life. After all these months. Yeah, it's not my favorite thing. I do not stand. Yoko Netterman von Excessivo del Laufo. I'm not even gonna. I think I just can apologize for my pronunciation and move on. Liebe Natalie, willkommen zurück. Danke. I wish you all the inner strength and irony, power for the recovery and further, since I cannot explain here how much empathy I have for you and keep a dignified look, those feelings, or elaborate on how excessively your publicly visible life parallels my own Sid's private life, like on so many levels. Here is my question. Wieso sprichst du so schön Deutsch? And have you ever found a fun work to read in German? The closest I got was Der Untertan, and the only fun-like part was to see that crap has never changed, and I was analyzing it. Right, so yeah. P.S. Don't be fooled by my perfect accent. I'm a Catalan-German ally living in Switzerland, who sent the German academia to hell after 8 years, and I scream laughing at every German word reference in your work on top of all the other laughs. Not normal. Please keep at it, which is necessary. Love you, be safe, get completely well soon, and please come to Switzerland. You are invited. I took a couple years of German in grad school. That's why I know any of it. So that's mostly for like the purposes of reading it. But I sort of fundamentally know the like general way that German words ought to be pronounced. I don't think my pronunciation is that great, but and it's getting worse, especially as I haven't been practicing. But it's fun, isn't it? That's my favorite thing about other languages. It's just like getting to make like goofy ass noises. I know it's like an offensive way of putting it, but like I just just making sounds is fun, right? Have I ever felt a fun work to read? Gosh, I remember, what did I read? Well, philosophy obviously is not fun to read in German. I remember reading like some like Goethe poems and stuff in grad school, and that was kind of fun. Erlen König, that one that Schubert wrote a song to, that was fun. It's about like a supernatural pedophile or something. I don't know. It's fun stuff. Charlotte Wagner says, sorry if this is a bit of an obvious question, but it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. Do you think that a large reason for homophobia, transphobia is sense of self? Like, do you think that people accept labels, ideas such as male, female, and the roles behind those labels into their identity when they come across people that don't meet these labels? Accepting those people is like radically redefining aspects of themselves. Yeah, I think that there's like definitely something to this idea that like part of why trans people in particular make people really uncomfortable is that like part of most people's like sort of basic like mental or conceptual toolkit for understanding like the world that they're in is gender. And people have a system of gendering people and how to understand how gender works. And that's like a very basic assumption most people have that they bring to like every social interaction. And so if a person, like a trans person, comes along and challenges that basic assumption, people don't like having their basic assumptions challenged. It's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to not be able to categorize the world the way you're usually able to categorize it. And I think that does trigger a response of kind of, you know, panic, fear, anger. That I think that is certainly part of where transphobia comes from. Homophobia too. I think human beings naturally have a disposition to form taboos about sex and about food, because these things have to do with like the crossing of our body's boundaries. And we have like an evolutionary reason to be concerned with that, because obviously it's like part of our survival. So someone who's seeing a sort of unfamiliar type of sexual activity, I think probably triggers those same kinds of feelings. So that's my crackpot armchair theorizing about that. Gary Marshall says, do you watch the Eurovision Song Contest? I'm a boring man who mostly listens to satanic death metal, but I also love ridiculous pop music and get oddly excited for Eurovision every year. Edit. I recently became unemployed, so may have to back out of patronizing for a bit, but it gives me an excuse to do the meme thing of saying I really love and appreciate your hashtag content. And even though I rarely ask anything in these, I feel uncomfortable asking personal questions, so just end up asking dumb shit about favorite members of the Wu-Tang Clan or favorite ABBA song. I have enjoyed listening to them from the past couple of years. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for all your support. And good luck getting a new job. Yeah, a lot of this going around, huh? Yeah, I do enjoy Eurovision. I do enjoy Eurovision memes. I enjoy Eurovision Twitter. It's the kind of thing that I probably wouldn't think to like go out of my way to watch on my own, but I like the culture around it and like the commentary. The sax guys, and so on. Kelly Zaho says, hello, la mas chingona. Here's my chance to fake my way through Spanish. Not gonna ask you any philosophical bullshit this time, but I really just want to know, what are you most proud of? It could be anything. It could be something to do with your incredible accomplishments with your work, or it could be something else. If I may be so bold to sneak a tiny one in, do you miss anything with the old days when you were smaller channels, say under 100k? Oh god, this is another question. I'm just talking out loud. What the fuck does one wear to DragCon? Love you. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, first question. What am I most proud of? Because I'm most proud of like just making a little difference in the world when an opportunity presented itself to me to do that. You know, I think that like spotting this whole alt-right thing ahead of the curve and doing everything I could do about it is something I'm proud of, because I think that, you know, it's not often that like an opportunity like that appears to someone, but I'm proud that when the opportunity did appear to me, I did what I think is basically the right thing. So I'm proud of that, I guess. Do I miss anything with the old days? Oh yeah. I really miss like that feeling of like a more direct sort of like connection with my audience, just feeling like it was like a little community instead of feeling like I'm this like aloof, like famous person, and there's just so many people that it's hard for it to feel like a community. I miss like, you know, just like doing little meetups and things. It's harder now that I have to, you know, be more aloof. What do you wear to DragCon? I think something gaudy, I assume. I think basically whatever you want, but I think it's also an opportunity to experiment with camp, opulence, gender fuckery. I don't know, it's my first DragCon, so I guess we'll find out, won't we? Ty says, "Hi, I'm a baby leftist, a military vet, and a Christian, and I'm working in both of these communities with a focus in de-radicalization. Thanks for inspiring that. Any advice or resources you would recommend? Are there any leftist content creators who are from either of those communities you support or recommend?" Let me think. I was about to say Mexi. I was like, oh, Mexi's a Christian, isn't she? But then I realized that she's not a Christian. She's a vegan. And that's actually not the same thing. I don't know. Who's like a leftist Christian on YouTube? And who's an army vet? Or military vet, rather. Chelsea Manning. She's not around. I know there's a lot of people in these communities that I see around. I'm struggling to come up with any content creators, though. It's not as uncommon as you think for these communities. No, I'm drawing a blank. Chat, help me out. Ty says, also, thank you for your work. Watching you taught me not just to believe trans women are women, but to experience them as women. A difference I didn't know existed until it was gone. Thanks for helping me. Oh, you're welcome, Ty. Yeah, that's a very... It's a moment, isn't it? To make that gap from, like, believing, technically, to just, like, seeing, right? Someone in the chat says Natalie fell off the vegan wagon, confirmed. I was never really on the vegan wagon. Daphne says, hello Natalie, my ex has an Asian fetish and is watching more and more centrist reactionary YouTube content. Oh boy. Deborah So, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Godsad, Tim Pool, and now also Sargon of Akkad. Could he be radicalizing, and his fetish an indication of a mindset that would be attracted to alt-right ideology? What is the deal with the alt-right people and Asian fetishes? Like, we all know that it's a thing. So here's the best I can come up with off the top of my head as a pure speculation about this. I think that if you look at white men who fetishize East Asian women, often that kind of like race play. Often that kind of race play is really about dominance and submission, and obviously highly problematic conceptions of the submissiveness of Asian women. So I think that the reason it's associated with alt-right people may be that alt-right people have a very reactionary view of gender, And they have a racist view of Asian women. And the two complement each other well. So they racistly believe Asian women to be submissive, non-feminists. And then they misogynistically seek out those qualities in a partner. Okay. I'm gonna get some more coffee once again. Anybody else want some? So stupid. Why am I like this? I always come back to bread. All right, let's get back to it. Tara Lederman says, "Hi Natalie, I know they're just characters, but I find myself wondering how Tiffany Tumples is getting on. She was in such a pitiful, sunken place last time we saw her, and as she was an exploration to some degree of how people in a vulnerable or transitioning position can radicalize themselves or lash out due to self-hatred, it also seems useful to examine and explore how that process happens. Have you thought about checking back in with her in a future video? And if so, do you have any thoughts to share about that?" Funny you mentioned that. I was just thinking I would like to do something else with her. So yes, I have thought about it. Sorry, it's very important that my hair is combed right at this moment. I'm a little bit like neurotic, in case you guys didn't notice. Let's see. Goes back to touching, frantically touching the veil. Do I have thoughts about checking back in with her? I do. I don't know if I want to say, but basically I feel like her character is like a useful way for me to explore a certain mindset or mindsets, and I want to explore that mindset yet again. Okay. I know that's a very coy, inadequate answer, but sort of deliberately I want to save it for the video, you know? Okay. Thanks for the question, Tara. Jack Austin Vincent says, "Hi, hey Natalie, I was wondering, how do you feel about people sampling the audio from your videos for music? As I make music where I use samples and would enjoy trying to incorporate something, not sure what, from one of your videos into a song, albeit in probably quite a mangled way. Also just want to say your videos are a big reason I have changed my mind on a lot of things and stopped my descent into being a right-wing kind of person from someone who originally definitely was not that. So keep up the good work. Much love." Thanks, Jack. If you're just making music for fun, yeah, use whatever you want. I don't care. If you're selling the music, what you should do is you should send an email to info@ContraPoints.com and describe like how much of my content you want to use and in what kind of transformative way, and my assistant will set something up with you. And also maybe just like say a little bit about the scope of your production, like how many how much you're expecting to sell, how many people you're expecting to perform it to, things like that. Caleb Bernard says, it's time for a choose your own adventure question. What is your favorite Pokemon, or what is your current snack food of choice? I think I can answer both of these. My favorite Pokemon, I know this is like the most boring possible answer, but like literally Pikachu is my favorite Pokemon because Pikachu's adorable and I love him. What is my current snack food of choice? Ice cream. I know this sounds weird, but like I haven't really liked ice cream that much for most of my adult life, but I started eating it recently. When for various reasons I could not eat much else, and now I'm still kind of on it, which is why I've got my fish food coffee here. This is like highly decadent. Ooh, that's hot. Don't drink hot coffee through a straw. It's not a pleasant experience. Riley Dosh says, Dosh like gosh. Riley Dosh. Thank you. Much needed. First, just a PSA. You can rewind, pause, and fast forward 10 seconds on YouTube on hitting J, K, and L respectively. Figured out someone out there could use that info. I hope so. Okay, what is the cutest Pokemon? And why is it Whalmer? Wow. 2 Pokemon questions in a row. I feel like we just established that Pikachu is the cutest, but okay, go off. Secondly, what Pokemon best represents ContraPoints? So people need to know. What Pokemon best represents ContraPoints? Maybe like Eevee, because Eevee's always like can evolve into all kinds of stuff, and I feel like I'm kind of a shapeshifter of a person. Not quite as much of a shapeshifter as like Ditto. Just like an Eevee level shapeshifter, not a Ditto level shapeshifter. That's an answer. Jessica Loganov says, I do my best work when I'm hyper-focusing on one project. How about you? Do you ever do research for one video while working on the script for another one and putting together the costumes and set for a third one? Or is it one video at a time, start to finish? Thanks for everything. I would say usually there's kind of like 2 videos taking up space in my mind at once. So like I'm working on one now, but I wouldn't say I'm working on a second one at the same time, but I do have ideas popping into my head for it, and I'll go like write them into a Word document. So that's about like the level of overlap there is. I often am not really working on 2 videos at a time. I would say that I'm really focused on one video at a time. But of course, like the kind of brainstorming stage for a video often will be like months before I actually make the video. So I'm definitely kind of doing that in my head with the next one. There's like an open like notes document for the video after the one I'm currently working on, for sure. Jacqueline Bristow says, hi Natalie, thank you for all the inspiration you give out on the regular. Oh, you're welcome. Glad I'm inspiring in some way. I hope my question isn't too difficult. I have been in a tough spot because the person who I came out to first has been claiming that she discovered me and likes to take as much credit as she can for something that I view as a harder battle. I've asked her to reframe her approach, but she laughs it off as though she is joking and continues to use that wording anyways. I've told her it removes a lot of my own agency in coming out, but I was wondering if there's anything you would recommend. Yeah, that's shitty. that's shitty. No one should be going around bragging about like cracking your egg or dragging you out of your own closet or whatever it is that they did. That's shitty. I think it sounds like you might just need to have like it sounds like you've already tried to have a conversation with them about this, but you might need to like turn it up a notch, be like, look, You have to stop saying this because, like, it's hurtful to me. Like, you might have to use, like, you know, that strong language if she doesn't get it otherwise, because that is subjectively shitty. Like, shouldn't be going around taking credit for your queerness. That's just not how that works. I'm so sorry. Connie Carolyn says, "Hello, you're amazing and I'd kind of die for you." Don't die for me, Connie. It's not worth it. If you were a knight, what would your knightly name and epithet be? And what weapon would you wield? I don't think I would be a knight. I don't know. My name would be Lady Gaga. And my weapon would be the power of love. Caleb Romo says, "Not sure if this has already been asked, in which case just move on to the next question, I guess. But who are some of your favorite smaller Brad left political YouTubers?" Shout out to Maria George or Maria Jorge, formerly the Witch. I know Maria the Witch. I know that name. Polodice, American Non-Compete, Jackson, Thought Slime, Big Joel, Sarah Z, Mexi, Let's Talk About Stuff, some more news. Those are all great suggestions. Gosh, let me think who else you missed. Search Intellectual Media is a smaller leftist channel that doesn't usually get mentioned in LeftTube lists, but it's quite a good channel. Intellects, as in L-E-X, Intellectual Media, I think is what it's the name of the channel. Cat Rambo says, "Do you read much fiction? And if so, are there genres, authors you particularly enjoy? And thank you for being so entertaining and incisive all at once." Oh, you're welcome, Kat. I would say that I don't read much anymore. People always ask me about reading. So here's the deal with me and reading. I kind of don't read much anymore, which sounds like I'm illiterate, which I kind of am. But part of the reason I don't read so much is that I spent I spent most of my 20s doing nothing but reading. And so now I kind of have this sense like I spent my 20s with my face in a book for like a decade. And I want to like live life now and like go do things and not just be reading all the time. So I don't make a lot of time to just read anymore. Which is not because I don't enjoy it per se, because obviously I do enjoy it, but it's just because I spent so much of of the last stage of my life doing that I'm kind of like longing for something different now, you know? But I once loved reading fiction, yes, and I would do that every day for years. I've been thinking lately about about the time I read George Eliot's Middlemarch, which is a very long, complicated novel, but it's like just a very like deep and like human like story about. It's not like a great novel in the way that like Infinite Jest or Ulysses or any of that like male garbage is. It's like, I don't know. It's more worth it to me than those. In retrospect, I read all those books, by the way. And Middlemarch is the one that stands out to me as the one that was worth it. I like some male garbage. I think Moby Dick is actually quite good in certain respects. I was thinking about it lately because I saw some tweets about Moby Dick and I was like, oh yeah, the story of the fish. Also because I like shark movies. That's my favorite like genre of like stupid movie is like the shark movie. Every shark movie is basically Jaws, and Jaws is basically Moby Dick. I'm also like really afraid. I'm really afraid of sharks. So that's why I like it. Because it actually scares me. Tara, I'm aware that George Eliot was a woman. I'm not saying that Middlemarch is male garbage. I'm contrasting it with male garbage. I'm sorry for the misandry. Comrade Ruru. So wait, no, I skipped one. Sam Hughes says, do we need to rely on different political strategies when trying to make change on social issues, where there is mostly just opposition from the right, mass incarceration, anti-immigrant sentiment, compared with issues where the opposition is both from the right and left, pornography, sex work, kink, etc.? Probably there does need to be some strategic difference. I'm thinking, I don't know. Well, I think like, I know I just made a video on like gender critical, like, but I'm sort of reluctant to waste too much more of my life talking about TERFs because I just think like, it's just not the most productive argument to have. Like, I think it's important to like, you know, figure out these like, you know, like anti-sex work leftists and stuff like that to like deal with it. But like, I also think it's a danger if we're spending if we're spending like a majority of our time dealing with those topics. I think that's something to think about, something to consider at least, to try to, you know, check ourselves, because it's easy to get caught up. Like, in some ways I think that the internal conflicts are more compelling, like as drama, you know, because we're all in the same community together. The drama is more compelling. That's not necessarily good though. Okay, Comrade Ruru says, hi Natalie, has financial success affected your views on capitalism? If so, how? Thank you. Well, I actually have a lot of thoughts about this that I haven't really found a place to share. Has it affected my views on capitalism? No, not really. Has it affected my feelings? Yeah, on an everyday basis, yes, it has. You know, I've had especially like a month of very like, I'm bougie. Like, I have a lawyer now. I have a dentist. I'm thinking of getting a therapist. I'm getting an accountant. Like, I'm the middle class, is what you have to look at yourself in the mirror one day and realize. All these things are very good. It's very good to have money. You know, I say this, it's very dramatic how it changes your life. I say as someone who 2 years ago, like, it's funny because I still have these like broke habits. Like, I still walk into the convenience store and I'm like, oh, I have to buy the cheapest thing. I have to get the cheapest thing. And it's like, wait, no, I don't. I could get the most expensive thing. It doesn't matter. But like, there was so many years where I had to get the cheapest thing that like, that habit is still sort of with me. But yeah, it's really changed my life having a middle class income for the last year or so. And I try to be cautious about it because it definitely can lead to, I can feel like viscerally how it could lead to a kind of complacency, right? I'm doing okay, so things must be going well. But I don't know. I've had conversations in particular with like some disabled people that I always go back to in my head, where like they can't get work, they're not getting enough benefits, they can't even afford like a new wheelchair. Like, fuck that. Like, there's absolutely no reason why anyone in this country should be having the budget I have for clothes, for example, while other people can't afford a wheelchair. Like, it's fucked up. And like, I have to, it's work now for me to remind myself how fucked up it is, because I'm not the one who's on this shit end of this fucked up system. But do I still believe it's a fucked up system? Of course I do. I've been really thinking about that a lot lately. Because, you start spending time with other people who have money, and a lot of them like are just totally oblivious, right? They don't think about it. So I think about how to like talk rich people into like being less rich. How to talk rich people into socialism, basically. I think rich people should voluntarily be surrendering much of their income, because I think that it's actually not good in some ways to be a rich person in a society where like all the people around you don't have their basic needs met. That's bad. Like, how can you live with yourself? Like, being a rich person and being driven around and having food cooked for you and having food delivered to you and having your groceries bagged and having your house cleaned by people who don't have their basic necessities met. Do you really want that? No, you don't. And if you let things get too bad, they're gonna cut your goddamn head off. So what are you doing? That's my that's my message to the rich. Okay. Satiate, or satiate, I can't pronounce, satiate, exasatiate. Hi Nat. 1. What video games do you play? #YesAllGamers. I don't play any video games at all. This is becoming like a problem in my life. Like, I'm supposed to go on this like podcast with H Bomber Guy to talk about video games, but like I don't know what video games I'm going to talk about because I don't play any. Like, I don't understand the 21st century. How can you understand that the 21st century if you don't play video games like at all? Because like I don't play them like at all. Like, I play 0 video games a week. Tell me, guys, what video games should I play? I should make time to play a video game. Because I just don't know. Like, I know nothing about gaming. And it's like kind of awkward. Stardew Valley, yeah, I've heard good things. Two, what magazines, journals, information sources do you read? Twitter. YouTube. I follow a lot of different magazines on, like online magazines on the twitter.com, and I will read a lot of articles. That's the reading I do. I read a lot of articles. I don't have any consistent like one single source of information. I subscribe to Vogue magazine and I look at the advertisements every month to get ideas for sets, costumes, things like that. So that's where my leftism comes from. 3. When are you going to release ContraPoints Contraband brand? Working on it. Have some designers doing some great stuff actually, and in the next month hopefully we'll have some new merch out. Love ya. Love you too. Wow, I'm so like, I don't like myself without alcohol. Well, it's like a dark thing to suddenly announce, but like, I'm just like not good at this unless I have booze. My brain is just slow. I'm so shy. Lizard Stan says, "Hey Natalie, what's your opinion on how to deal with the propagation of misleading or blatant lies, and how to fight against misinformation in mainstream media? Because from what I've seen, long and detailed debunking seems ineffective. Or maybe I'm just a pessimist and it might work in the long run, but I would be interested in your take on the subject. For the record, I'm fully aware that that was kind of the subject of your video debating with the alt-right." Yeah, so I think this is like a problem that all of us are kind of like trying to like, by all of us I mean like the left, I guess, are trying to like figure out how to deal with. Because it's true that like these like long debunkings of every meticulous debunkings of like every wrong thing that Trump says when it's like 25 things a day, like you just can't do it. So I think like what ultimately is effective is like a counter narrative that you work on producing. And I think that like Bernie Sanders, for example, has the capacity to do that. I'm feeling like pretty pro Bernie at the moment, I must say. Like I'm trying to avoid like endorsing any like primary candidates, but I'm really feeling the burn at the moment, especially compared to these other. If the Democratic Party forces me to vote for Joe Biden, I will not be a happy person. Yeah, I think a counter narrative is more strong than meticulous debunking. So that's vague advice, but I think that's the general answer. La Teta Antifascista says, "Hey, tried to post many times but then couldn't see me. This is the last time I'll try. I'm very sorry if others can see my posts. I can't delete them since I don't see them. This is the first post of yours I've seen, so I guess it worked. Hello, beautiful. How have you been? I've been good. How about you? I hope you're feeling much better by now. Let me tell you, I admire your commitment to your audience and to your political work. You should be resting, miss, I know. Anyhow, to my question, I've noticed that your last videos, you have been addressing mainly trans issues. Is this because of your own personal journey, or does it have a more political aim? Are you trying to make trans issues some kind of a universal issue from which you can address other political discussions, or will you be addressing other marginalized subjects in your next videos? And what about our beloved characters from the past? I miss Tabby. I looked for her on Tinder, but she isn't there, lol. Those are the questions. Yeah, so I do intend to do some more trans stuff this year. I think it's something that I'm very like personally involved in at the moment, and I think I make better videos where I'm like really like personally involved. But I would say that I will eventually get bored of the trans stuff, as you know, once transitioning becomes like less of a big part of my personal life. I think I will move on to other things. But also I think that, you know, I'm in a position where I feel like I'm sort of poised to do a lot of good on that subject in particular, and now is like the time for it. So I feel like a lot of things have come together in my personal life and the world that it just kind of makes sense for me to be doing so many trans videos. But obviously I don't want to do that forever. I have other things to say. So I don't know. I have some videos that aren't necessarily related to that I want to do too. I definitely don't want to just be a trans YouTuber, although that is a lot of what I do lately. Also, the videos I've been doing about trans issues have just been doing really well, which tells me that there's like an audience for that is people kind of want to see the content about that right now, which is kind of not what I would expect, but it seems to be the case. So seeing as that's kind of what I feel like doing anyway, and apparently it's what the audience wants. That's why I'm doing so much trans stuff. It's the combination of those two things. Yes, I do want to go back to characters. I kind of got disheartened after the aesthetic when it comes to doing videos with characters. But I have an idea for another video with characters that I want to do probably right after the one I'm currently working on. Oh, but one more thing. This is Lateta speaking again. We want you to know we are a political collective with about 15 cis, until now, but let's hope, women on it from ages 4 to 45 that defines itself as an anti-capitalist feminist group. So although me, Andrea, is the one who writes, we are actually funding you as a group. So there you have. We send you our love and hope you are feeling as wonderful as you are. Viva la revolution. Thanks guys. Say hello to me, to the rest of the collective. Thanks for your question. Yoshiharu Hewitt says, hey Natalie, hope you're doing well. The past couple of questions I asked you were more serious, so this one I'll be more lighthearted. Which would you rather, you can pick one in order of preference, be stuck on a desert island with the Golden One and Sargon of Akkad for 25 years? The Golden One, no question. Can you? I don't want to be stuck on a desert island with Sargon for 5 seconds. The Golden One, at least we could, like, you know, reproduce. We'd find a way. Adopt a hyperconservative. Oh wait, no. I'm not answering the question right. These are the 3 options. Be stuck on a desert island with the Golden One and Sargon for 25 years. That's option 1. That's a pretty bad option. Adopt a hyper-conservative persona and be the next Milo for the conservative movement. Or, once every 3 months, you have to go out onto the streets in the middle of the night wearing nothing but a trench coat, find a rat, and kill it with your bare hands. Obviously, the last option. At least it's obvious to me. Thanks, you're welcome. Evan Kimberlin says, hi Natalie, your videos are quite fun and informational, thanks. Here's my question. Could you describe what toxic masculinity means to you? And could you help identify examples of toxic masculinity in American culture? Toxic masculinity is like masculinity as sort of defined in terms of its relation to dominance of femininity, whether that means dominance of women or feminine men or whatever. So basically any kind of like masculinity that's sort of fundamentally based on hierarchical dominance, like over other men too. That's how I would define it. Because I think it's like, what are examples? Examples would be like, men sort of persuading each other that they're emasculated if they don't, you know, keep their woman in line or like sort of preserve this show of public dominance, right? Or it's shaming and humiliating other men for not being masculine in the right way or masculine enough. I don't know if these are cultural examples, but locker room talk, that's an example of toxic masculinity. Male social relations that involve, you know, bonding over denigrating women, that's toxic masculinity. Saiv Emo says, money is tight, but here's a fluff question before I downgrade. A fry is a deep fried potato, right? So is a potato chip a fry? Sending love. Take care, and thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks, Saiv, for your support. A fry is a deep fried potato, so is a potato chip a fry? Well, this is really a linguistic question that must be disputed between Australians, Americans, and the English. because of course in England they call fries chips, and they call chips crisps. No one calls potato chips fries. That's, unless they do it in Australia, do they? God help us if they do, but I don't think anyone does. So I'm going to say no. A potato chip, a crisp, is not a fry. Not in any system that I'm aware of. Forlorn Cornhorn Reborn says, should I read Infinite Jest? I saw it on your bookcase in a video. Also, when I was 4, I was attacked by a talking educational fire hydrant, and I still feel uneasy around animatronics. Do you have any irrational fears as well? Okay, 2 questions. Okay, first, should I read Infinite Jest? No. Second question, do I have any irrational fears? Sharks, insects, centipedes. I guess that about covers it. I guess leave it to you guys to decide how irrational those are. I'm such a baby about bugs in the house. Like, it's an ordeal every time, you know? Zoe S says, hi Natalie, I'm really struggling right now. I'm a trans athlete. I'm passionate about powerlifting as a sport. I love seeing what I can achieve, how I can grow and improve. There's lately been growing vitriol around transgender competitors, specifically trans women. This weekend on Sunday, a headline has been blasted on Twitter, Instagram, and the strength community. The headline is, transgender athlete smashes 4 women's powerlifting records. From such publishers like Red State, InfoWars, Sputnik News, to name a few. Browsing the articles, they are near word-for-word repeats, quoting tweets from Mary Gregory herself and other athletes' responses. No context is offered. Nothing about her as an athlete. Nothing about what kind of work she put in. I get this feeling it's an undercurrent of anti-trans rhetoric. It kind of fools me. As a weightlifter, of course, I want even playing field if I'm competing against others. I'm happy to see discussion about what that looks like for openly competing as a trans person. The responses and Baited Publishing has a common tagline. I support a person's right to be transgender, however men, biology, scientifically, bone structure. I know these are tired topics. I'm hurting and struggling with this. My gender identity feels at times like a waiting weapon people can just use to cut me off at the knees. I'm hoping you might have some thoughts on this. Direction, hope, a bit of encouragement if you're willing. I'm just worried. Yeah, so I think that, like, as you say, is there a real conversation to have about, like, what constitutes fairness when it comes to trans women athletes competing in women's sports? Yeah, I think there is a real discussion there. Is that the discussion that's being had? No. Obviously, you know, when you're dealing with like Red State, InfoWars, Sputnik News or whatever, like, it's obviously just being used as a, you know, transphobic talking point, because it's a domain where it seems, right, the intuition the public is going to have is, you know, it's a good intuition pump, to use a philosophy jargon term. It sort of pumps the public's intuitions that trans women are men, right? Because, okay, you know, the public might think trans women in beauty contests, oh, sure, right? But, like, okay, trans women powerlifting, now suddenly biology and all that seems to matter. So, what is the real answer to this question? I don't know. I don't know the answer to the fairness question. I don't, as I've said before. What is the answer to the discourse question? Well, I mean, I've been pointing out on Twitter lately the way the same conversation basically is had about, you know, Caster Semenya, or like even like Serena Williams, like, where there's this attitude about what women's competition means, and what a woman is supposed to be. as you know, do I think that trans women completely dominate women's sports? Well, evidently they do not. And all the headlines about trans women dominating women's sports often are citing like 1 to 3 examples of a trans woman winning something, which is not tantamount to domination of a field. So it's very disingenuous. As far as encouragement, I mean, none of this, of course, affects what your gender is. As far as your legitimacy as a competitor, I mean, are you dominating all the competitions? It doesn't sound like you are, because you didn't say anything about that. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say, except that it sounds like you have the right attitude, and it sounds like you had the patience for this, and I'm sorry that you've been caught up in this shitty smear campaign. Stay strong. You're a power lifter, should be fine. Unlike me. Lugnut92 says, Dear Natalie, hope you're doing well. Since you're probably about 2 hours deep here, I'll keep it light. Which player token is your favorite in Monopoly? Thanks. I'm trying to remember what the player tokens are. There's like a thimble. There's a shoe. There's a car. I like the shoe of those ones. I haven't spent that much time playing Monopoly, but I think I'm gonna go with the shoe on this one. DeEvo1 says, Hi Natalie, in advance, sorry for the preamble. Question. Steering the narrative with slanted coverage seems to become more and more of a phenomenon as social media keeps coming to the forefront of news coverage and interpretation of said news. This means that where some players are driven by wanting their take/interpretation to be fact-driven versus players who don't seem to have that as their main focus, the latter tends to be the first to get their message out to the public, with news coupled with their own interpretation of the news, while the former tends to be a backseat to access and wait for the facts, and only after the fact come out with their interpretation. Usually this means that the first batch of information is not accurate, but becomes the prevailing interpretation while the item in question is hot in the news, while accurate information never hits the social media sphere in a similar manner. Now, this isn't an extremely new problem in itself, but due to how social media works at a breakneck pace and with the staggering numbers of both content creators and content consumers, it makes this issue much more noticeable and impactful. What are your thoughts on how/if this can be tackled, where either more thought-out considerations comes to the forefront of people's minds, or we are headed to a world where the hot takes are all that are of relevance? Yeah, this is, I mean, I don't know what to do with this problem. I mean, the example that comes to my mind is the Notre Dame fire, where I remember within 5 minutes of the news that there was a fire, there were conservative commentators tweeting, oh, this just shows everything we've been saying. Europe is under attack. Like, Islamism is here, everyone. Like, you know, this was like well before the spire had burned down. Like, we're talking about there was a fire. There was some smoke. The first time it was smoke. These are the takes that we were saying. And yeah, so that's obviously, you know, when that's the first thing people are seeing, like, that's the first, you know, people, I mean, obviously people always, you know, I remember seeing footage of like 9/11 where there were people standing in the streets with ash on their faces talking about how we have to go to war, you know, well before anyone knew who was responsible for the attacks. So, you know, this is, you know, always been a problem, of course, but I think it's like amplified maybe by social media. What do we do about it? Like, let me see, what exactly was your question? Either more thought out considerations come to the forefront of people's minds, or we are headed to a world where hot takes are all there are irrelevant. God, I don't know. well, we kind of have to just wait and see. Like, I mean, I would hope that, like, I feel like I try to train myself, right, to not just have the to sort of have like a slower mind in a sense, right? A mind that hears, oh, a cathedral is on fire. That could be a bunch of different things. Let's see what it is, you know, and not a mind that goes, oh, the West is under attack. But you know, I do worry that let's wait and see is less of a compelling narrative than the West is under attack. And, you know, my hope would be that, like, you know, fear of looking foolish for having jumped to conclusions would be a motivating factor here. But it seems not to be. And that's the scary part to me, is that, like, the lies and the mistakes don't seem to cost anything anymore. Like, Trump just or, you know, it's like a new kind of lie. Like, all politicians lie, but like Trump lies at a pace and a magnitude that seem to surpass like for any past president I can remember. And it doesn't seem to hurt him, you know? So it's like, it scares me. I have no answer. I'm just watching agape in horror like the rest of you. I'm sorry. Gamzy Joestar says, "Hi Natalie, I love your sense of style and all your outfits, so I would be over the moon if I could get some constructive criticism from you on my newest look. Other than that, I hope you're doing well." Okay, there's a link to a newest look, which I guess I can see, the rest of you can't. Okay, you want constructive criticism. Okay. Constructive criticism is lose the belts. It's too much. I think that I love the black and white pattern. I love wearing black and white patterns myself. And a pop of color against a black and white outfit looks really good. But you already have that pop of color with that pink cravat or whatever that is, handkerchief. The rainbow belt and the red, white, and blue belt, that's too many pops of color. It's now cluttered. So get rid of the belts. Keep the pop of color, that's the pink. And steam your shirt, your top. That's my constructive criticism. Otherwise, looking good. Okay. L the lofted aphid, or is it Eli, or is it Ellie, or is it... Okay, we'll move on. Hi Natalie, I have a lore related question. In one of your old videos, is BDSM feminist? Oh god, I don't remember shit about this video. The debate is hosted by someone called John Jane Jackson. My question is, does this person have any relation to current Freedom Report host Jackie Jackson, or does the name Jackson have some cultural significance to debate show hosts in the controversy? Thank you for your time. Well, I would say that I don't want to ruin the intricate symbol, because I think really only you can benefit from the journey that you have to go through to connect the intricate symbolic connections that you can find everywhere in the controversy. So what I would do is search, obscure Bible verses, Eastern religious texts, astrological atlases, that kind of thing, in search of connections between things, and give that a good 10 or 20 years, and then come back and let me know how your journey is coming. Okay, Nick Padula says, "Hi Natalie, hope the surgery went well, thanks Nick. This time I promise to keep my inquiry short and sweet, at least compared to that essay from last time. In an ideal world where fully automated luxury gay space communism rules supreme, do you think there would be a place for the medium of anime that some on the left would consider heresy? I know it tends to have some real problematic elements, but I still find some diamonds in the rough. And I don't believe mangaka and the mangaka and the animators that adapt their work should be launched into the space gulag, but that's just me. Yeah, I think anime, like it or not, is here to stay, like video games, and we all just need to accept that. Luxury gay space communism or not. I mean, if anything, I feel like there's going to be a lot of anime and luxury gay space communism, because the kind of people who go for the luxury gay space communism, they're also going for anime. We all know. We know. We all know what's going on. Curdy P says, my brain is so slow, guys. I'm getting old. Am I getting sober? What's going on with me? Hi, Natalie. Hope you're recovering and at peace. Thanks, Curdy. Is there any kind of public advocacy and or action that pro-trans religious organizations are uniquely equipped to undertake? In other words, if you were head of a church or a synagogue or a meditation center, or if you had the listening ear of one, what would you say to them? How would you like to see them actively enlisted in a worthwhile trans cause? Well, how about maybe collaborating with organizations like the Trevor Project? Or how about specifically helping out trans youth? You know, a high percentage of the homeless teenagers in America are LGBT. That would be a great project for religious organizations, is to take in some of those kids or help kids or develop programs to support those kids. That's what I would do. Because that to me is sort of within the domain of like the palpable good that religious organizations have always done, is sort of caring for the people who slide to the lowest point in our society. And a lot of those people are LGBT teenagers. So, living in a world where religion was friends instead of foes to those kids would be, I think, an immense improvement. That wannabe thought Julia says, hi Natalie, fellow Kim Petra Stan here. I've been a patron since November, but I upgraded to 15 pledge recently. First off, hope you're having a speedy recovery on your surgery. Congrats on getting it. Thank you, Julia. My questions are, what are your thoughts on trans medicalism? Personally, I'm a trans medicalist who's 16 MTF, is open-minded. Even if you're a full-on too cute who believes they are 76 genders, I'll still be a stan/fan of you. My next question is, what are your thoughts on Calvin Guerra? Personally, I'm a fan of him. Okay. Okay, trans medicalism. You know, I might do a video about this soon. What I think about trans medicalism, for the people watching, like, it's the idea that what being trans is, fundamentally, is that it's a medical condition. Or at least that it's sort of needs to be defined medically by doctors. To me, I think that this is an overly pathologizing and somewhat ahistorical view of what being trans is. So the common, trans medicalist view is like, you have to have gender dysphoria to be trans. That sounds like pretty common sense, because like, why would you transition without dysphoria? But I think there's a kind of more sinister thing going on in the sidelines here, because I think that what this does essentially, right, is it identifies transness with the sort of DSM, current DSM definition, right, which is dysphoria. And that, my concern is that it defines being trans as a negative, right? It's you're defined by the sort of misery that led you to transition. And also it's overly medical, right? Okay, in the past, there were trans people, but they did not have anything like the medical system for transsexuality that we have today. So you know, would people like Marsha P. Johnson, for example, be diagnosed with gender dysphoria today? Well, quite possibly, but that doesn't seem to be like the prevailing way that this was thought of at the time. So I think our understanding of what it means to be transsexual or transgender seems to kind of change over time. And I think that the dysphoria one is the current psychiatric model, but that's a very recent psychiatric update. So I think that really, like, do I understand what it means to be trans, like, without ever having had dysphoria? Not really. But so that's not really, I don't really have I have no personal stake really involved in saying like, oh, you don't need dysphoria to be trans, because I've had terrible dysphoria for a long time, and like most of the trans people I've ever met have had it at least at some point in their lives. But like, I don't like the way people like Calvin Guerra use this, right? Like Calvin, he makes all these videos where he finds some like trender, and it's just, basically just like shames the hell out of them in public. And it's like, look, are some of these people not trans? Are they, gonna like, probably. Is there such a thing as a person who falsely believes they're trans? Probably. But is it really the most helpful thing for them, or for trans people, or for anyone else, to make a big public spectacle of shaming them? I don't think so. I think that hurts the people that Calvin's talking about, for one thing. And I think it hurts other trans people, because I think it just creates this atmosphere where trans people feel like they have to prove their transness, and where people who are sort of questioning or unsure basically feel sort of silenced and less able to explore that because of this negative stigma and this kind of like hate, basically. And because it is kind of hating, right? That is associated with like trenders. And I think it would be probably more productive if the trans community were welcoming to the questioning. Now, I know what Calvin would say is that, like, well, these aren't questioning people. These are people who claim to be trans and they don't have dysphoria. And it's my job to point out that they're wrong about themselves to save them from, wrongly transitioning. Well, no, Calvin, it's not your job. I'm sorry, sweetie. It's really not, like, I just don't see what good that kind of content's doing, Like here's the thing, like, I find Calvin relatable. I do. Because I feel like I feel like I empathize to some extent with the emotions that he's feeling. Because I feel, sometimes I think it's the sort of like trans woman equivalent of them, right? There's this kind of discomfort with sort of trans feminine people who don't seem to have any of the kind of like dysphoria triggers that I do. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that. I do. But what do I do? It's about what you do with those feelings. And I think that if I were to do it with I imagine myself doing what Calvin does with them, and I don't see any good coming of that. So that's like a very short, off-the-cuff version of a topic I actually have a lot of very complicated thoughts about. Scott A says, "Hey Nat, in college I ended up with a pretty negative view of continental philosophy on methodological grounds, but I actually really enjoy reading continental philosophers' work. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the analytic continental divide, and although I have a general sense of how you feel about philosophy, I'm wondering what your strongest recommendations are that are historically later than Sartre, if any. Thanks, love you." Geez. As we've discussed, my philosophy memory is not great. I said Rorty earlier. I do like Rorty. I like later Wittgenstein. I guess that's basically contemporaneous to Sartre. I like... I don't know, what do I like? I don't know philosophy anymore. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's not a very good answer. I don't know philosophy. I don't read philosophy anymore. Not really. Especially not modern philosophy. My God. Um, yeah, I just don't like reading a lot of like contemporary critical theorists and stuff. I just don't like, some of them have interesting ideas, but I just don't enjoy engaging with it. So eyeshadow does not look as good on camera as it did in the mirror. Okay, that's the best I can do, Scott. I'm sorry. Wolan says, "Hi Natalie, I hope you're feeling better every day." Thanks, I am actually. On a related note, is your eye all better from a month ago? How bad is the glitter infestation in your home? Did you have to call an exterminator? All the best for your recovery. My eye is much better, thank you. That was fortunately a short-lived problem. I've learned a valuable lesson. See, what terrifies me is using like big colored contacts and glitter at the same time all around my, like, I feel like it's just a recipe for blindness. And I need to look into ways to be safer about this, because that was kind of a scare last month. The glitter infestation of my home is hopeless, believe me, it's everywhere. Antonio Sciano di Cola says, sorry, that's Sciano because it's Italian. I can pronounce some things. You've mentioned in a video of yours that you identify as polyamorous. I was wondering if you plan on doing a video on that subject. I would be curious to hear your perspective. I also identify as poly, and before transitioning, I stopped dating for several years. Now I'm dating again, and it has been on my mind a lot. I don't have a video planned on being poly in the near future, in part because, like, I feel like to discuss poly stuff, I would have to talk a lot about, like, really personal relationship stuff, and I don't like talking about my, relationships on YouTube, because in some ways I share a lot about my life online, but that's one area where I prefer to keep privacy, because this stuff is hard enough as is without an audience. So it's possible I would talk about it someday when I could ask it. I could talk about it a little more generically, but I don't want to do a big subtweet of a video about who I'm dating. Guys, I had to pee. I'm gonna go do that. I'll be right back. How are we doing? We're almost done. Yeah, guys, I don't know what it is about this. I think it's the light. It's just washing color out of my face. But in the mirror, this eyeshadow, like this teal eyeshadow, is like so pigmented. And then here, it just looks really like faded and just bad. We could try turning the light down and see if it shows up better. It's a lot of work to do because my eyeshadow doesn't look pigmented enough. Is it worth it? The answer is yes. How's bread chat? That doesn't help. Well, actually it does, but now I'm dark. Oh, I like, let's try this. I think that's better. Just in general. Samantha Tucker says, "Hi Natalie, no question this time. Just wanted to express heartfelt wishes for an expeditious recovery and abundant health. Take care and be well." Thanks, Samantha. Doing a little better every day. Austin Harry says, "In only as much detail as you're comfortable sharing, how's your personal life? Things going well? It seems like you're always working. Have you been eating? We worry about you sometimes." Let me think how much I want to answer that question. I've had a hard month, guys. I'm dying inside. I don't want to elaborate, but it's just been a hard month. But it's just a kind of like a lot going on at once, and just sort of a lot went wrong at once. Let's just put it that way. But I'm doing okay. I'll be fine. I'm a strong person. I'm getting back into the swing of work on videos. It's keeping me distracted. It's keeping my mind off it, and it's gonna be okay. Thank you for asking. Heather Clarkson says, "Suggestion. If you were to use an online survey tool to collect questions for your AMAs, you could put a character word limit on submitted questions and solve the novel length question problem. Cheers, hope you're doing well." You know, Heather, that's a pretty good idea. I might just do that. Bibis Babis says, "Question, how do you heal from seeing hateful comments and stuff on your videos? How do you maintain hope when so many millions of people seem to hate you / us daily?" I finally have made a therapy appointment, so I'm hoping that I will be able to talk about it then. I have no idea, Bevis. I've actually kind of reached a breaking point with that stuff where, like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, no one comment ever gets to me, but it's just like, days after weeks after months after years of this has really kind of hurt me, and like, it's time that I started working on it, on fixing the problems that are there. Hi Natalie, I've been struggling with something similar to the incel black pill world. This is the same questioner. Black pill worldview lately, except in my case, it's not that I'm worried about feminism or anything like that. I'm just so overwhelmed by seeing so much hate online in the last 2 years, and all the recent mass shootings, and all the reptilian monsters in our politics. I'm tired of hearing about cultural Marxism and seeing so much anti-SJW YouTube nonsense that I have to actively prune from my suggestions. Just knowing a growing group of people hates me so much is really depressing. I remember seeing one thread where one Pepe Frog anime avatar person was talking about his plan to sorry guys, this is going to be a little bit triggering language, I think. To bully-side Jews and pause queer people around him. It's just too much. I've stopped using Reddit and Twitter entirely, but I feel that this has really hurt my worldview. Yeah, Babis, I'm kind of right there with you, to be honest. Like, I'm like nodding along with this paragraph because, yeah, it's gotten to me. It has. I know I shouldn't say that, because to say that publicly is, in a sense, to acknowledge vulnerability, which is, it's blood in the water. But let's just say that I have the resources to cope with it, and I'm going to pursue them relentlessly, and I will not ever back down because of Dingus's hate posting. Take breaks. Take lots of breaks. Remember, you don't have to be online. You have to be online sometimes, but not at any given moment. And it's important to take time off. Mitch says, do you think Ruben would ever actually invite you onto his show? Furthermore, if you ever got on, how would you try to persuade his audience? No, I don't think he would ever invite me on. I think that that's pretty clear from his posts on Twitter, where he basically tags a bunch of leftists whom he knows won't go on because they're way more famous than him. Meanwhile, he has on the most minor right-wing YouTubers, and then just completely ignores people like me who actually would do it. So it's never going to come up because he's never going to have me on, because he didn't actually want a discussion. The whole thing is just a farce. If I were to go on something like that, what would I say to persuade his audience? I would think I would just work on drawing attention to just like the fact that like this obsession with like campus, social justice, free speech hating is basically a moral panic that's completely blown out of proportion. I'd really press them on the fact that they spent so much time talking about Bill C-16 is going to take freedom of speech. Well, can't we acknowledge that that was a moral panic now? It seems like it's a safe amount of time has gone by where we can do that. That's the kind of thing I would press. It's time to switch to water. Dermage says, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Fluff question at the end. Just wanted to use this space to tell everyone to join the IWW. I was recently wrongfully terminated, but I'm going to be fine because of the union. Join. Just do it. Are you planning any meetups, events in Canada? It kind of sucks up here at the moment, and we could use your sunshine. Oh, thanks, babe. Sorry, I just called you babe. It just slipped out. I don't know why. Canada, yeah. I don't. The only meetup I have planned is a DragCon. I'm gonna do a Canadian radio thing, I think, pretty soon. So that's some Canada activity. Okay. Stay strong, Canada. Vicky Lynn says, have you ever seen the movie Suffragette? One of the lines, the press is mocking us, triggered a bit of deja vu for me. Get well soon. Thanks, Vicky. And no, I haven't seen it, but yes, I do see why that line is pertinent at the moment. I should watch it. Great, the chat is now just babe chat. Take a fucking sip. Okay. Thought Takes says, fuck, marry, kill, taco edition. Coarse, masculine, hard tacos. Smooth, feminine, soft tacos. Envy bowls. If you kill the bowls, Twitter will cancel you again. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Okay, in that case, I will say I'm gonna marry soft tacos, fuck envy bowls, kill hard tacos. Uncancelled. Okay. Charlotte Van Pettigam says, I don't really have a question this month. Just hope you're doing okay. I guess I'll take this moment to thank you for how much you've helped me in my transition. So thanks. Oh, thanks, Charlotte. I mean, you're welcome, Charlotte. And thanks for the message. Alexander Allen William Fix says, I'm in the midst of a gender identity crisis. Do you know any online resources that can help someone like myself? Well, as someone who's responded to your comment says, there is a trans lifeline, not Canada and US number, which they provided in response to your comment. In the US, that's 877-565-8860. And if your crisis is more understated, and you just kind of need help, like, figuring things out, you could try some of the nicer trans subreddits, like r/asktransgender, but you should also be cautioned that sometimes these places can become a little bit depressive. So if you're already feeling a bit depressed, that's probably not a good idea. Good luck. Things do get better. I'll just say that. These moments of uncertainty and transition are difficult, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Eduardo Lervasi, or Yervasi, says, "Hi Natalie, I was wondering how long does the writing of the script for an episode usually take? Wish you a speedy recovery." Research plus writing happens at the same time as I'm shopping for props and set stuff. And that all takes a little more than a week, generally. Once I really get started on it. Thanks for your well wishes. ContraPoints Dank Meme Stash says, so that's the community. How do you feel about your fan community and breadtube shipping? We like having fun, but always aim to be respectful. It's been kind of wearing me down lately, to be honest. Like, I understand that people are going to do it anyway, so me complaining about it really doesn't help anything. But it is a little weird over time, and like, it kind of weirdly affects friendships I have with actual people sometimes. Like, the fact that there's the constant like shipping going on and the way that we're discussed online, it's kind of weird. At first I thought it was kind of cute, and sometimes I still find it cute, but like, it's also weird that like, like when I'm mentioned in public in connection with certain of my colleagues, like so frequently, it's like speculation about whether we're banging. It's kind of weird. I don't know. It's not my favorite thing. But I also understand that I'm a public figure now, and I guess this is what I signed up for, so that's kind of my problem. Say hello to everyone at the meme stash for me. And I don't judge them. I don't judge people for shipping. I understand that why people do it. I would be doing it myself probably if I was in the audience, but it has just gotten a little weird on my end. But that's my problem, like I said. Rachel Simmons says, Caster Semenya, your thoughts? We've talked about her a few times on this stream now, and I just tweeted about her. I think the ruling is terrible. I think that no one is talking about making Michael Phelps inject lactic acid supplements or something, and that there's this, there's this idea that women's sports is just men's sports, but like worse. You know what I mean? Like with men's sports, there's kind of this sense of like, as long as you're not breaking the letter of the law with regard to the competition, like then the goal for men's sports is to be the highest achieving possible by any natural means necessary. Whereas with women's sports, there's like, it seems like they've decided that there ought to be like an artificial ceiling to performance, So, I don't know enough about sports to really say whether that's philosophically sound or not, but to me, the whole thing just seems like obvious, like reactionary gender ideas plus racism. Mike Bell says, hello, it seems to me is less of a backlash against newer social justice YouTube people like yourself and Ollie and whatnot than there was a few years ago against Anita Sarkeesian, Steve Shives, and Lacey Green and whatnot. I remember these people being like top social justice lordesses at the time. Like, I don't see a lot of 50-part rambling rebuttals to ContraPoints videos floating around and getting popular in the same way. Is this assessment accurate? As always, thank you for your time. Your work continues to be excellent. Good luck with recovery. Yeah, a couple like minor shitlord accounts have sort of tried to turn me into like an Anita Sarkeesian figure, but it hasn't really taken off in the same way yet. No, it's true. And I think part of the reason why is that the newer channels that you mentioned, like all of us kind of went into this basically armoring ourselves against that kind of thing. Now, will that always work? I don't know. It might stop working at some point, and they might develop new techniques that we haven't really prepared ourselves for. But for the time being, it does seem that the tide has turned, and that it's not 2014 all over again. Things are different now. So we'll see. As always, thank you for your time. Your work continues to be excellent. Good luck with your recovery. Thanks, Mike. NL Lumi says, hi there. A few things I was wondering about. One, how can you tell the difference between actual dysphoria per se and dysphoria as a manifestation of something else? For example, depression and escapism, which can ultimately lead to detransitioning. That is really not something that I am qualified to speak on. That's the kind of thing that someone really does need to work out with a therapist. One thing I'll say that it's like I do sometimes get messages from people being like, oh, I never knew I had gender dysphoria until I watched your videos, and now that worries the hell out of me, because you should definitely not transition because you stan someone on the internet. That seems dangerous to me, and I don't want to be responsible for that shit. Find a good gender therapist and talk about it if you're not sure. Because, you know, sometimes, like, some of the advice that, you know, trans people give online, like, oh, if you want to be trans, then you're trans. Like, I think there's something to that. But don't just dive head in because of a thing that you recently have started experiencing. You know what I mean? Like it's a big decision. Take it seriously. And give it the time and thought that it deserves. And ultimately, don't listen to anything I say. Like my advice is just, I just can't give you personalized advice. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that you deserve to give yourself more time to think about than I am capable of giving you by far. So that's my advice, is give it time and thought, and talk to a neutral party, like a therapist, if someone who's like, you know, competent in these kinds of things, and hopefully you have a good therapist and not, you know, a shithead, because there are bad therapists out there too. 2, what prompted you to revisit old topics you addressed in the past, e.g. gender critical after TERFs, America Still Racist after the video about Baltimore? Are there any other topics you plan to revisit? Basically, I just felt I had something more to say about it, or a different way of saying it. So, like, you know, with the gender critical video, I really wanted to do a video that was kind of about TERFs, but instead of just like parodying them, that was like a more direct engagement with those ideas, sort of more in the vein of the way I would talk about like incels or like Jordan Peterson fans. So to me, that was a very different video than the old TERFs video. There are some other topics that I want to revisit, true. Can I talk about any of that yet? Not really. 3. This is 9 questions in one, but we're putting up with this because it's at the end. Will you create videos about topics other than things related to trans issues in the near future? I'm a bit biased, but as a person currently residing in Israel, I wonder your take on geopolitics in general. Well, I talk about things other than trans politics, absolutely. There's a lot of non-trans videos that I have in my head that I'm working on in my brain. Probably not a lot of geopolitics stuff though. I tend to prefer talking about like very like personal stuff, not necessarily stuff about my life, but stuff that's like very sort of like human stuff that pertains to like individual human lives, not like big like foreign policy kind of issues. I don't really, that's not what I'm good at, I don't think. And it's also not a great fit for my style of video making. 4. I found this Reddit comment with links to articles explaining what postmodern neo-Marxist means. Thoughts? I don't know what Reddit comment you're talking about, and I'm just going to move on since that's one of 9 questions. Speaking of which, do you follow your own channel subreddit? Yeah, I look at it sometimes. 6. I've submitted 7 translations to Hebrew for your vids. How come they haven't been approved? I'm a volunteer at a youth center where I live, and I want to show them to the teens there, especially the one about pickup artists. I don't always go back on like old videos like that. I probably haven't gone back and checked the captions. I will do it every once in a while, so I'll get to it eventually. But on the newer videos, I try to go check the community captions more often. But since you've reminded me, I'll try to go back and check on those old ones and improve the captions. Let me refresh this to get any newer questions. Yeah, that is assistant work. Someone should forward that to my manager. Okay. Okay, this... Oh, there's another question from the same user. Could I elaborate on other mouthfeels like masculine vagina or cut, uncut, feminine penis, formerly? I delight in all mouthfeels. Let's leave it at that. Amy Thorne says, hope your flu is getting better. Have you ever seen the movie Terror Vision? I was getting Medusa vibes off the horned biological woman in the gender critical video. I have not seen the movie Terror Vision. I can definitely see the Medusa connection. And I was also thinking kind of like Maleficent. And thank you for your well wishes. Labor Wave Dashing says, yay Natalie, congrats on 500,000 plus subscribers. Thank you. I asked this question on the wrong thread. Hopefully you answer this. What is your favorite? Who is your favorite Chapo? The one who's the true leftist. I think we all know which one that is. Why am I stroking my chain? I love stroking my chain beard. I'm so wise. Andy E says, some ideas like what being trans means or what being gay means are super easy to explain to kids who take these ideas at face value and don't have internalized worldviews and biases to get in the way. Taking a step back from specific truths about human nature, are there fundamental ideas about reality that you wish someone had instilled in you as a child that would have made your path easier or given you a head start at seeing the world more clearly? In other words, if Christians can teach kids terrible ideas like original sin, what real and useful ideas about truth or humanity or relationships would you want to teach kids before the cruft and rust of biases and cultural baggage close in that might keep that cruft and rust to a minimum? I would say like a big one for me would be like, I sort of wish I was raised with an idea of like romantic and sexual relationships that was not so like monogamy or nothing, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like that as a norm, like I don't, not that I have anything against monogamy. I don't. I actually am like agnostic about my own. Like I might want to be monogamous someday. I might want that, but I also like, I think there's an idea about relationships that it takes a lot of us time to overcome. Which is that like you kind of like own another person, right? And that like cheating on someone is like the worst thing you can do. I hate this idea. Like, I think there's so much more to a relationship with a person than like exclusive sexual rights. Ugh, I hate that. Like, there's so much, there's like, a romantic relationship is like a relationship between humans, and like that's not a possession relationship. It's just not. And like, to me, discovering that over time has like really kind of made my romantic relationships more human, I think. And I guess that's a very vague thing to say, but it's something that I sort of wish was sort of more intuitive to people. Melina Reyna says, or Melina, what would it take to get you to be a speaker at a conference? What topic would you like to cover if you did? Email me at info@ContraPoints.com and my assistant will talk you through the options. Basically, like, I don't have a lot of time. So if you want me to do like a keynote speech that I have to write, like prepare a speech, I basically won't do that unless you pay me a lot of money, because it takes a ton of my time, and my time is worth a lot. Not to be like a horrible bitch about it, but it just is. And so easier, stuff I'm more likely to do for an affordable price is like a question and answer session, because I don't have to do much for preparation, and I like doing question and answers. So that's something that I can do sort of more. I have more room for that in my schedule, so I'm not going to demand that you pay me for 3 days of work. Naomi Wixon says, okay, so you're an ethics geek and a fashion geek. Any thoughts on a video on ethics in fashion? For example, labor practices with an eye toward how to dress yourself while still supporting basic human rights. Especially if I don't want to dress exclusively in dull canvas attire like Tom's or whatever. I don't know if I have a whole video's worth of things to say about it. It's something I've been sort of thinking about. Lately I've been buying a lot of like used clothes. Like I just got this dress on, it's called ThreadUp. It's a website that's like trades exclusively used clothes, and it's a lot of like designer stuff, so it's like nice. It's not Tom's. And every time I say I'm doing something that I think is ethical, there's always a bunch of people in the comments being like, actually, that's even worse, because buying used clothes online means that you have to be shipping it back and forth, and that actually uses a ton of fuel, and that means that you're actually destroying the planet. You know what I mean? Like, you can never actually win the ethical game, so to speak. So maybe that's not actually good, but that's just a thought I have, and I have not tested this thought by posting it on Twitter, for example, so I guess we'll find out based on how people respond to this, whether that is a good thought or not. Oh, ThreadUp only women's clothes. That's helpful to some of you, not others. Okay. Holly Mahan says, hi Natalie, love your channel. Thanks for sharing your transition through your very thought-provoking videos. You've opened my mind to love trans folks. Also, thank you for introducing me to Anita Sarkeesian. Do you think her backlash was because of her GoFundMe success? It seems she didn't start getting so much hate till people started funding to hear her thoughts and men got jealous. Well, it's kind of reciprocal causation, isn't it? Because one of the reasons she got so much funding, she got a lot of attention for being horribly harassed. And then the funding success led to more harassment. So you can't really place the era of causation one way or another on that, I don't think. Yeah, I live in fear of becoming the next Anita Sarkeesian in terms of like harassment. I really do feel like I have to make sure I'm careful with the men's feelings. They're very delicate. The consequences are dire for hurting them. Okay, that's it for questions. I'm feeling very caffeinated, feeling very like neurotic. Oh, we've got a new question just in. Hi, I submitted my question. It might have been deleted anyway. Hope to join the Coast Guard Aux or National Guard. Neither will probably work out for me. How do I move on, and how do I deal with my pop-up military and my strong dislike for many of its missions and aims? Well, if you don't think that either will work out for you, you could just pursue career outside the military. I don't know. I'm sure the Coast Guard does a lot of things that aren't too bad. I don't really know though. I'm not in the military, nor have I ever been. But I would guess that the Coast Guard is a relatively benign institution. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Gotta get paid somehow. I got that. I need to like decompress a little bit here, guys. I'm gonna brush my hair because I'm neurotic, and I just like looking at it. I had to wash it too. I didn't wash it today. I have really oily hair. I wash it every other day, which I know sounds like a lot, but like trust me, I need to. This is my not washing day. Oh, look how much better that looks. If I could just not touch it. I can't not touch it though. Impossible. How are you guys doing in the chat? I just want to have like a little hangout here because I'm like, I don't know. I want to have like a conversation that's not just answering questions for a little bit. I haven't done like a stream, a normal stream in so long, like just talking to the chat. And there's like fairly few people here right now, so I kind of feel like doing it. I have been doing this for a while. When did I start? It's been like 3 hours. That's like the longest one of these I've ever done. I don't know why I'm not just like, I'm going to bed now. This chain is driving me crazy. It's its lack of symmetry. How's my day been going? It's been going well. What did I do today? I went out to buy some props for my next video. I got ready to stream. Once I lean on the pop filter, it's all over. That's true. Well, I used to really do that when I would get drunk on streams, and I'd just be like, ugh. Do you guys remember when I used to like just like do streams and just get trashed? I kind of miss that and kind of don't. It's just objectively not a great idea to be drunk on stream. But it was fun while it lasted. Bath streams. Oh god, don't remind me. Can you imagine doing that now? Oh, someone asked about the cleavage and the gender critical video. Yeah, here's a good little piece of secret information that I can say at the very end of a 3-hour stream that not many people will see. I just taped my boobs together and then contoured them. It's drag queen techniques, basically. So yes, they are technically my boobs, but they're not, it's more than a push-up bra, let's put it that way. I say drag queen, we're talking, I mean like drag queen / like 14-year-old girl behavior. I haven't been in the bath in a video in a long time either. There's just been a kind of lack of nudity in general. Well, I guess actually not really. There was in the apocalypse. Here's more behind the scenes trivia. When I filmed Marie in the bath for the apocalypse, I was actually pretty drunk when I filmed that. because I had that bottle of Moet, and Moet is my favorite wine, and so I just couldn't help myself. I had like 2 glasses, and I was just like loopy as hell. You can kind of tell that I was drunk watching that video. Like the way I'm like, no, no, like it's just drunk beat behavior. Oh yeah, and I actually did poppers too, so I was very like, woo. Do I have any poppers? Not in this drawer. I used to have poppers in this like desk drawer. Now I don't have them because they made the whole drawer smell like poppers. Moet and poppers, that's my lifestyle. Why do I stay in Baltimore? It's cheap and also inertia. Because like where else would I move? To some like fancy person place like New York City or LA? Just why? Like moving is such a hassle just to live in a place that's 3 times as expensive. And where I wouldn't be able to afford as much space. Sometimes I think about moving to LA, but I have to live in LA. Baltimore is too cold for you. It's so cold for me during the winter. But I'm a very delicate creature when it comes to temperature. Nothing's ever right for me. There's like 2 weeks of nice weather. It's so gorgeous in Baltimore right now. Like now's the time of year that I love. And then it just gets a swampy, like mosquito-y mess. Does Baltimore have the DC bed bugs problem? Probably. But it's not as bad as like 2 other cities I've lived in, like Chicago and Boston. I had bed bugs once in Boston. It is the worst experience. I'm sleepy. I'm lonely. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want to get drunk, but I shouldn't. God, I just want to be a mess on a stream. I have the urge. It's like boiling up inside me. What if I open a bottle of wine and do a public stream? Like, what if I just... No, don't do it. Do not do that. I want to get drunk with you so bad. I know I shouldn't. I can't get drunk because I'm recovering from surgery still. I tried getting drunk last week and it turned out not to be a good idea. What are my opinions on the design of Sonic the Hedgehog? Just like hilariously bad. Painkiller stream? Oh my god, Kelly, believe me, I considered it. I've done a painkiller stream before. I don't remember which one, but there's definitely one of my Patron streams that I was secretly on Vicodin. It's not this one. I'm nothing but coffee tonight. What's on my bed? Some pillows and a little towel back there. Natalie Wynn reports on the opioid crisis live from inside her stomach. Yeah. I do have edibles. I could get really high. That's pretty safe. Except, like, getting high is, like, not fun on stream, you know? Because, like, that's just gonna make me, like, really self-conscious and paranoid. I want something that makes me disinhibited and feels good. Is that all being a woman is to you? Throw pillows? Yeah, pretty much. Basically sums it up. Alright, I should go to bed. I want to have fun though. Good night, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Talk soon. Bye.